Hello, and welcome everybody. Hello, Get. Good to see you. I've been away for the past almost week, I guess. And that's because I've been sick. So, as you can tell in my voice, it's still not back to normal, but here we are. We are here. Okay, let me just get some settings set up here. All right. So, how is everybody doing? Hope everybody is doing good. Hope everybody's doing better than I am. I hope everybody survived them storms that went through the US. We're getting them here in Canada now. Okay, let me just get this shared. Let's we'll do this. All right. Okay, so we're going to go over this first. This is what has been released, and then I've got a bunch of documents and some other things that I want to go over before we get to the documents, but I want to read through this. Hey, Nana, good morning, Nana. There's Kate. Hello, Kate. Yeah, I was sick. I hope you fared well, Kate, out there in Michigan. Hello, Mike. And Kate is saying everything's fine. That's good. Good. Okay, so I usually wait a day or so because we're not allowed to watch the WebEx or whatever anymore from the hearing. So usually the next day it's made available, but I haven't been able to find it. But I did find this from the Colorado courts. Hey, DK, how are you? I hope you're well. Okay, so it says in the March 9th status conference for the trial of Barry Morphew, another status conference was set for 1:30 p.m. on March 30th, in addition to a possible hearing regarding the release of the late Suzanne Morphew's remains to her children, Macy and Mallory. And I find it's funny that they name Macy and Mallory here because in the documents they blocked out their names, even though they're adults now. They're all over the age of 18, the both of them. Macy, Mallory, and Barry all attended virtually and separately on March 9th. The two adult children are asking the 12th Judicial District Court Chief Judge Amanda Hopkins to order law enforcement to return their mother's remains after they were allegedly removed from Colorado Springs Funeral Home. Now, I've got something to say about this, you guys, and we're going to get into it and why this is pissing me off so bad, okay? Let me just get through this document and then I will let you guys know why I'm so pissed about this. During the March 9th status conference, Hopkins said she is treating the request as three separate orders: a motion to intervene, a temporary protection order, and an order to show cause. Hopkins added that she doesn't know if the children have a legal standing to intervene, and if they don't, the two other motions will be mute because these are all regarding Suzanne Morphew. I was going to say Nancy. I got Nancy on my mind, you guys. I did an updated read this morning on Gus Lamont and Nancy Guthrie. And those will be coming out this week. So I just gotta, like I said, I'm just getting over being sick as a dog all week. So I got the thumbnails and everything to do on those. Okay, Roberta Nick Nielsenak. Hey, Butterfly Dana. The attorney for the Morphew children stated that she plans to drive to Alamosa for the March 30th hearing, but said the girls might attend virtually. She added that she will not need more than 30 minutes and does not plan on calling witnesses. Ann Kelly represented the 12th Judicial District, also online. She says she doesn't believe this request from the children warrants a hearing, and I don't think it does either. And you're going to find out why, okay? And once she responds to the filed motions, it might be resolved. She said this is an argument between the parties. Kelly added that she would like more time to file a response to the motion, which Hopkins allowed. Now they already have. We're going to go over these documents. We already went over the document that Macy and Mallory filed, saying they want their mother's remains returned. We've got Barry's response. We've got the prosecution's response, and we've got lawyers quitting on Barry. So we're going to get into all those documents, okay? And there's fishy stuff going on there too, and it's like I need to be in my right frame of mind and not sick to be able to make hide or tail of this, but I think I got the gist of it, and it's another thing that makes you go, huh, right? Kate says, oh my word, I've been watching You Know Who coverage on Nancy. Can't believe no new info. No. But wait till you see the next reading that I did. I did on both Gus Lamont and on Nancy Guthrie. I did where it's standing right now with the police. Those are very interesting that came out. So we're going to see what happens there. Fancy Nancy, hello. Hello. I am feeling a lot better. Even 2 days ago, you guys, I slept all day. Like, I have not been feeling good at all. I was up maybe 3 hours the whole day yesterday. Okay, we do have her response. Anyway, David Beller, an attorney representing Barry Morphew, said it's our legal position. We take no position on it. Mr. Morphew's intention and hope that he supports his daughters in whatever they want. Beyond a father supporting his girls, we are not taking a legal decision for purposes of his defense or prosecution. No, you're backdooring it. You're getting your daughters to do your dirty work yet again, right? Where is Martin? I don't know. Here, let me just message him. Let me just message him, and I'll tell him to come in if and he can join in. Let me get the stream code for him. And I'll send it to him and see if he wants to come in. Okay, I just sent him a message. We'll see if I don't know if he's even online right now. It's not showing that he's online. Give me a second, you guys. I'll send one to my brother too. Oh, he's not. Okay, he's not. Yeah. Brother's got things going on today. I know that. Okay, so I sent a message to Martin. We'll see if he gets that and he wants to jump in. We'll see. No problem, Luby. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, so here he says it's our legal position that we take no position on it. Mr. Morphew's intention and hope is that he supports his daughters in whatever they want. Beyond a father supporting his girls, we are not taking a legal decision. Bullshit. You got your daughters to backdoor this to get rid of evidence. Okay? And I'm going to tell you why I think that. Okay? I'm going to show you why. Because I think later on down the road, they can claim we don't have a body to do any testing of our own, blah 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 blah. Anyway, we'll get into that. Additionally, before this discussion, Beller told Hopkins about the amount of discovery the prosecution continues to share and acknowledged the motions filing deadline of April 13th. The defense is working extremely diligently, going through what is now over 6 terabytes of discovery. Come on, he was arrested last year. You've had all kinds of time to go through discovery, and it's like, don't start pulling an Ann Taylor here, right? Hey, Great Designs. Hey, Ing, how you doing? Baylor added that he doesn't believe any of the set trial dates will need to be adjusted yet, right? Yet, being the operative word, yet. But he does appreciate the status conference check-ins. Morphew was indicted. Okay, it just goes over what was going on there. Okay. So I'm going to describe to you guys now before we go over the court documents. The thing that I have a problem with is the girls battling over Suzanne's remains, and there's two conflicting perspectives, okay? The girls are saying through their attorney that they're arguing that their primary motivation is to finally lay their mom to rest. Well, wait a minute. Since the time she went missing, you showed no concern for her well-being, for her being found. Even once her body was found, there was no concern showed by you guys then. No open, oh my God, our mother, like, she's not with us. And no, nothing, you guys, okay? And they're saying that they claim that the state seizure of Suzanne's remains violates her constitutional rights. Well, Suzanne had some constitutional rights too. And as your daughters, you should have been concerned about where your mother was and what happened to her. Even once your dad was arrested, which is, this was during COVID. People weren't out and about and going visiting and going to bars and all kinds of shit. No, you guys were camping during COVID. Like, I don't know. To say that they knew of a plan, I'm not totally there, but it's very suspicious that during COVID, when everybody was told to stay home, you guys are going on a camping trip, and that just happens to be the time that your mother goes missing. And Macy, shame on you, saying that you never seen any how can you say it, anything wrong with your mom and dad's relationship and this and that. Come on, Macy. You had conversations with your mother, which they have the text messages of, and I've got copies of them, where you were telling your mom, get a divorce, get a protection order. We can move to Salida and get our own place there. And yet when you're interviewed later on, you said there was no, arguing and nothing that ever made you aware. You knew your mother was afraid to be alone with your father. Like, it just disgusts me. Okay, so they're trying to use religious freedoms. They claim that the prosecution is violating not only their constitutional rights but their religious freedoms. And they're saying, according to their mother's wishes, Barry stated it was Suzanne's wish to be cremated and have her ashes spread in Florida. Why the hell would she want to go to Florida when her family is in Indiana? It makes no sense. And to be cremated, where is that? Where did he get that from? Or we just take Barry at his word, right? Because you burned her journals, right? And then they're saying they want emotional closure, right? But what the state is saying is they're objecting to the release, arguing that the request is strategic. And it's a strategic attempt to destroy evidence, right? Prosecutors have argued that since the remains contain traces of that, I can't say the words there, but the BAM, and that BAM was linked to Barry Morphew, because you guys know, he was the only one in all of Colorado in that area, other than government agencies that had BAM. And it's material evidence that must be preserved for the upcoming trial, right? And they're saying that the strategic timing, the state pointed out that the daughters didn't take possession of the remains when they were first offered. Guess when? In April of almost 2 years ago, 22 months ago. 22 months ago, they were told, your mother's remains are available for you guys to go and pick up. Did they? 22 months ago. They didn't go and pick her up. And a sudden push now, only after their dad has been rearrested and indicted, now they want their mother's ashes or remains. And you know why they want the remains? They want to destroy those remains. They want to cremate them, right? What happened to, in their own documents that they filed, after years of searching and being traumatized and the uncertainty, they've expressed desire for healing from their worst nightmare and to lay their mother to rest so she can finally rest, which is consistent with their faith. Why didn't you do that 2 years ago? Why are you only doing it now that your dad's been arrested and they need your mother's remains because of the BAM that was found in her remains? Where was your concern for dignity for your mother 2 years ago when you were told to go and pick up her remains? They were available. They were offered to you back in April of 2024. Why now? Right? So the DA is explicitly stating that allowing a defendant's family to destroy material evidence would give them the ability to interfere with or even end the criminal investigations. Don't tell me. Okay. And we're going to see Barry takes no stand in this. No, that's my daughter's fight. I'm not getting involved. No, you got your daughters to do your dirty work. You want that evidence gone. Gone. Right? So, with that being said, let's get into the documents. Okay, let me share my screen here. Okay, so we're not going to read. Okay, let me just see some of the comments. Way, hello, Butterfly Dana, hello. Butterfly Dana says they had a chance before to get Suzanne's body and Barry, nor the two girls came to get her. No, none of them. Barry didn't, and Barry was out. Barry didn't get arrested again until 2025, right? He was released in 2022. He was arrested again in 2025. They were from April 2024. They could have went and got those remains, Suzanne's remains. They were offered to the family in April of 2024. And neither Barry nor the girls went and got it. And then all of a sudden, and she sat there in the funeral home for 2 years almost. You didn't care then about, the dignity for your mother, respect for your mother, putting your mother to rest. You didn't care back then. And you haven't cared for the last almost 2 years. But now you do when you see that her remains are the main focus of this investigation, right? Yes, I agree. Courtney Anchors, hello. Long time no see. Good to see you. Right. Right. Yes, the remains of 2 other children were kept till after trial. Yes. But they had agreed to release her remains back in April of 2024. Remember, she was found in September of 2023. And they did all their testing and everything and whatnot. And, in April of 2024, that was like a year and a bit before Barry was rearrested. They were going to release them. And they've been there since April of 2024. And I guess now the prosecution just figured, well, they're there. We don't got nothing to worry about. And then this happens, right? Yeah, and once they seen that they found the BAM and everything, like it's sad to say, you guys, excuse me, but her remains are evidence. Hang on, give me 2 seconds. I have my hot tea here with honey in it. Okay, so we've already gone through this. If you guys haven't seen the video, at the end of this live, I will link it in the description. You'll see the thumbnail. Uh, I think the thumbnail says we want our mother back or something like that. And we go through this document. And as you can see, the interveners here, like this is Mallory and Macy, and they blocked out their names throughout this whole document. We went over this document, and this is where they ask for a hearing to get their mother's remains back. Okay, so then the prosecution, these all came out very close together, like within a day or so of each other. So the prosecutors have filed a response. It is 4 pages. And this is their response to we already, like I said, we already read through Mallory and Macy's request for their mother's remains. So this is the prosecution's response. Ann Kelly, District Attorney in and for the 12th Judicial District, State of Colorado, respectfully objects to the interviewer's motion. So I'm going to say Mallory and Macy's motion. Suzanne Morphew's remains and material evidence are oh my gosh, we'll get it together. Are material evidence in this case lawfully obtained by a search warrant? Mallory and Macy have requested the release of this evidence prior to motions and trial. Mallory and Macy failed to cite any authority supporting the specific relief requested. The court therefore should deny their motion without hearing. Background. On September 23rd, 2024, Suzanne Morphew's skeletal remains, no, they got this wrong. I hate this. She was found on September 23rd, 2023. Not 20. Let me just recheck that. Hang on. It's 2023. I know it is. 2020, September 22nd. Suzanne Morphew's remains were discovered on September 22nd, 2023 in a remote shallow grave in Sasquatch County, Colorado, near the town of Moffat. So not only did they get the year wrong here, they got the day wrong. And I hate that in court documents. Hello, Sherry. Anyway, on September 22nd, 2023, Suzanne Morphew's skeletal remains were discovered. An autopsy was performed, photographs were taken, samples were collected, and scientific testing of the remains was conducted. The testing revealed the presence of an animal tranquilizer called BAM in Suzanne Morphew's remains. This is a mixture of compounds that is rare, requires a prescription, and is linked directly to the defendant. In April of 2024, the remains of Suzanne were made available. See this? Hang on, let me just. Okay, so how can her remains be found September 23rd? Oh my gosh, stop it. Okay, why is my pen not working? Hang on, draw. There we go. So how could her remains be found on September 23rd, 2024, but in April of 2024, which is before September, the remains of Suzanne Morphew were made available for release to her family? Like, this pisses me off. Oh, like Suzanne hasn't been disrespected enough, right? But anyway, that's just me. That's my 30 years in the legal field. Stuff like this just irritates me. No one was charged with Suzanne Morphew's murder at that time. Further, at that time, family members did not take possession of her remains, and since that authorization of release, the following changes in circumstances have occurred. On June 18th, 2025, so over a year later, a grand jury returned an indictment for murder in the first degree against Barry Morphew for the murder of Suzanne Morphew. Currently, he stands charged with murder in the first degree and is at liberty on bond. Okay? So, during all this time, until he was arrested on June 18th, 2025, from April of 2024, over a year. Over a year. On January 12th, 2026, the case was set for a motions hearing to commence on July 6, 2026, and a jury trial to commence on October 13th, 2026. On January 19th, 2026, the court issued an ominous order with deadlines in the case. Notably, the court set a motions filing deadline for April 13th, 2026, and the court set an expert witness disclosure deadline of August 13th. I've got the expert list. Martin was here when we went over that, and he explained in that who everybody was. He knows this case inside and out, so maybe hopefully he'll pop in. The defense team has indicated they will be challenging the testing done on the remains in this case. And this here is important, okay? Because the defense team has already indicated that they will be challenging the testing done on Suzanne Morphew's remains. But they want to cremate her. So why hasn't the defense team already done their testing? They were hoping this would just slip through, because the day that the prosecution put a stop to them being able to take Suzanne's remains, the next day she would have been cremated. She was set for cremation the next day. They got her remains just in time. Okay? But previous to that, previous to them going there to get the remains and bringing them to the crematorium to be cremated, which almost happened, the prosecution got wind of it and said, oh, hell no. And they went and got the remains and stopped that cremation from happening just in time. And the defense already knew that they wanted to have their own testing done, because they were going to challenge the testing that was done on the remains. So they were hoping this was just going to slip right under the radar. And then the defense was going to be able to come back and say, well, we can't do our own testing. She's been cremated. So thank God that the prosecution got these remains and got an order to stop that cremation from happening, right? Then on January 29th, 2026, defendant Barry Morphew signed for the release of victim Suzanne Morphew remains from the El Paso coroner's office to the Swan Law Funeral Directions Funeral Home. He signed that release. He is working in conjunction with the daughters to try and get her remains cremated before the defense could do their testing, so that way they could use that against the prosecution in the case. Look, you never should have allowed that to happen, blah, blah, blah. Well, thank God they stopped it. So let's go through this. On February 17th, law enforcement was notified by the coroner that Suzanne Morphew's remains had been released to a funeral home. The funeral home had arrived at the El Paso County Coroner's Office that day to pick up Suzanne's remains. Law enforcement then began the process to apply for a search warrant to take custody of the remains as material evidence in the case. On February 18th, the people received an email from the attorney for Mallory and Macy. I don't know why they're blocking out their name here, demanding Suzanne's remains be released. The people responded by explaining that a warrant was being sought, that they would be released if the warrant was not ordered, and that the people were available at any time to talk with the victims about these issues. Later that day, on February 18th, the court ordered a search warrant for Suzanne Morphew's remains. On February 19th, when collecting Suzanne's remains, Under Sheriff Alex Wachter was informed that Suzanne Morphew's remains were set to be cremated the next day on February 20th. So they got this order. Thank God the coroner said, look, we got this letter from Barry Morphew, this release, releasing her body to this funeral home, and they're going to cremate her. Thank God the coroner's office let the prosecution know. Otherwise, she would have been cremated. And that evidence would have been gone, and they would have said, well, you guys back up here. They would have said, well, you knew we were going to be challenging that testing that you did on the remains, and that we wanted to do our own testing, and now we can't do it, blah, 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 right? And they were going to have some kind of I don't know. I don't know what they thought they were going to do, but anyway. On February 24th, the court ordered another search warrant for documents related to Suzanne Morphew's remains. Documents obtained through that search warrant include 2 signed forms with defendant Barry Morphew's signature on them, one dated February 11th and one dated February 13th, authorizing the cremation of the remains of the victim, in this case, Suzanne Morphew. Now, prior to the court ruling on the admissibility of the scientific testing of Suzanne Morphew's remains for trial, and prior to the disclosure of the defendant's expert witness opinions as to any analysis of Suzanne Morphew's remain, and prior to the following of any motions explaining the grounds to exclude the people's expert opinions regarding Suzanne Morphew's remains, Mallory and Macy seek an order releasing those remains back to the defendant for destruction. So none of this has been done yet, and it's all around her remains because the defense is going to fight what the prosecution found in Suzanne's remains, and they want to do their own testing, and they can't do that if she's been cremated. So prior to all this stuff happening, they have hearings and everything else that are coming up, motion hearings that are coming up, for expert witnesses, because the defense is trying to get their own experts to retest these remains, and they're going to try and say that the testing that the prosecution did isn't right. They're going to fight the people's expert opinion regarding Suzanne's remains, but they want to cremate her first. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't see the judge giving back the remains to the family. They are going to stay locked up, right? Especially until all of this stuff here is done. Because this is huge grounds for an appeal for Barry Morphew. If she had been cremated and they couldn't do all this testing and everything, and have the defendant couldn't have their expert do their own testing and give his own opinion, that would have been huge grounds for appeal, and they knew it. And Barry did this because he got his daughters to do his dirty work, right? So it's like, I'm not the one trying to cremate her and get rid of the evidence. That's my daughters. Like, he doesn't care who he throws under the bus or brings down with him. Now, could the lawyers have said, hey, get your daughters to go and get the remains and cremate them? They don't have the remains, then we're going to go for, this to be dismissed because we can't do all this testing and have our experts go over her remains. And if there is no remains to go over, then we can have this dismissed. You know what I mean? I know how lawyers think. Okay, so this is the law. If you guys want to read through it, you can. Courts have recognized that it is a compelling state interest to maintain the integrity of a criminal prosecution and to enforce the law. The argument. As a threshold matter in their motion, Mallory and Macy cite to no specific legal authority for their request for relief. While Mallory and Macy generally reference constitutional principles and victims' rights, Mallory and Macy have not provided any specific legal authority for their requests. Indeed, Mallory and Macy cite to no specific constitutional or statutory provisions, nor any case law citations included that stand for the proposition that a victim can take custody of a descendant's remains during the pendency of a murder case. Rights under the Victims' Right Act do not include access to remains in this context. Specifically, neither the VRA citations included in the motion stand for the proposition that a victim may possess, let alone destroy, material evidence in a homicide prosecution. Indeed, interpreting the VRA to confer such a right would give defendants or their family members the ability to interfere with or even end criminal investigations and prosecutions. And that's what I was saying just prior there, that they would ask for a dismissal because they weren't able to do their own testing, that the state, shouldn't allow this to happen and blah, blah, blah. And yet Barry sits there and looks totally innocent in all of this. No, he had to release those remains. Why would it, after 2 years of those remains sitting there waiting for him to go and pick up, why would all of a sudden now he wants her cremated and put to rest and give her the dignity and respect? No, you want to get rid of the evidence before any further testing and any further arguments regarding the remains can be held. You want to get rid of them so you can ask for a dismissal. We're on to you, Morphew. Okay, so where were we? Indeed, interpreting the VRA to confer such a right would give defendants or their family members the ability to interfere with or even end criminal investigations and prosecutions. Courts should not interpret the VRA to lead to such an absurd result. Similarly, Mallory Macy also cite no authority for the proposition that either the First or 14th Amendment confer a right to take possession of and bury evidence material in an ongoing homicide prosecution. See, I don't know why they're come on, blocking out their names here. Give me a second, you guys. Sorry about that. Okay, further, in the motion, the following important facts are not included. The motion does not explain that a lawful search warrant was obtained to seize Suzanne Morphew's remains as evidence. The motion references a Christian service and Mallory Macy possess, memorialize, and bury their mother. It does not include for the court's consideration the fact that the remains were scheduled to be cremated. So yeah, they didn't put this in there. Like, we don't just want to bury her, we want to cremate her, right? No, he won't get involved in that, Nana. He's I can't say too much, but no, he's not gonna contact them for something like this. Okay, the motion indicates that Swan Lake Funeral Home took possession of the remains pursuant to Mallory and Macy's request. It does not explain the fact that Barry Morphew, the defendant, signed the release authorization and the Colorado authorization for cremation and disposition forms. Barry signed the authorization to release her from the coroner's office to the funeral home and the authorization for cremation. He knew exactly what he was doing. Why would you tell the funeral home, cremate her, when you guys are the ones that are saying you want to do testing on it because you don't trust the testing that the prosecution did? You've got motion dates set to argue those facts. And why would you want to cremate her? To get rid of the evidence, Barry. Given the posture of the case at this time, Suzanne Morphew's remains constitute material evidence for at least the following reasons. Depending on what expert opinions the defendant offers relating to the remains, the people may need their experts to conduct further examinations or testing. If the defendant motions to suppress the testing for BAM and that motion is granted, the people may conduct additional sampling or testing. If the defendant is acquitted at trial, the remains become evidence in an unsolved homicide. So even if he is acquitted, they are still going to keep those remains because they're evidence in an unsolved homicide if he's found not guilty. If the defendant is convicted at trial, his future attorneys may want access to the remains in the event there is a post-conviction litigation or an appeal, right? So they still wouldn't get them back until the time elapsed for them to be able to file an appeal, which is usually 30, 60, 90 days. So still, even if he is convicted, until the appeal process date runs its course and he's out of time, then they could release the remains, right? But as we all know, if there's an appeal, if he's found guilty, they're going to appeal it, and appeal process could take decades, which means her remains will never be released until he runs out of appeals, until every avenue that he can take has been nullified, right? By either rejection or the judge is saying, no, you're done. There's nothing more you can appeal. No more basis for appeal. And that could take decades, you guys. Butterfly Dana says, Willow, who would have to be notified? Who would have to be notified? The prosecutor? If so, what is his name and contact number for someone that would be able to contact them? Let me read that. I'm missing something. Willow, who would have to be notified? The prosecutor? If so, what is his name and contact number for someone that would be able to contact them? I'll give it to you at the end of this. We're almost done this. We're on page 4. It'll be at the bottom. So just watch the bottom of this document. We're almost done. We're on page 404, and it will be at the bottom. So the people's conduct seizing and preserving Suzanne's remains for the duration of the prosecution is narrowly tailored to serve the interest because it does not infringe on Mallory and Macy's rights except as necessary to preserve the integrity of material evidence, and the people will release the evidence to Mallory and Macy at the conclusion of the case and any appeals. Additional victims' position. The people have spoken with Suzanne Morphew's sister, Melinda, and brother David Mormon. Both of them strongly object to the release of the remains of their sister prior to a verdict being reached in the case. They both noted concerns with the integrity of the evidence and separately indicated their desire to discuss bringing Suzanne back to Indiana. See, that's what I'm saying. What do you mean she wants to be scattered all over Florida? No, she doesn't. She'd want to be back in Indiana with her family. It was their position that others in their family would agree. Yes, Butterfly Dana, I'll give you that at the bottom. We're almost done. And if you want to email them or whatever, I'll give you the name of the document that you can tell them and what paragraph it's at. Conclusion. In conclusion, what is before the court is that the defendant in a murder case authorized the release of the murder victim's remains prior to pending motions, litigation, and jury trial, and paid to have them cremated prior to disclosures of his experts. So he paid for the cremation already, which is going to be interesting because there's something else I want to bring up about his lawyers because one quit. We'll go through that. Opinions or court filings on admissibility of scientific testing regarding the said remains. So it was like he was anxious to get this done and over with, even paid for it ahead of time. Even though his own lawyers have motion dates set to argue the admissibility of the testing that the prosecution did and want to do their own testing. How can you do that if she's cremated? Oh. To prevent this, law enforcement sought a court-ordered and constitutionally valid search warrant ensuing the preservation of material evidence. To the extent that this could be construed to infringe upon the rights of the victims is narrowly tailored to serve a compelling state interest. Until Mallory and Macy cite to a specific legal authority regarding the specific circumstance, the right to compel prior to motions, litigation, and trial the release of the murder victims' remains that constitute material evidence in a case were lawfully obtained pursuant to a search warrant, their motion should be denied. Wherefore, based on the above, people respectfully request that the Honorable Court deny the Mallory and Macy's motion and deny Mallory and Macy's motion for a show cause hearing. Okay, so here is the district attorney you would have to write. Her name is Ann Kelly, and she is right here. Here's her phone number, right there. Office of the District Attorney, 601 Main Street, Alamosa, and here is the phone number. So if you want to write that down, and it will be a paragraph 1 of the background. Here's the background, paragraph 1. Okay. So let's go over here. Yes, I can't, but I have some friends in Colorado. Thank you. You're welcome. Ostafal. This is wild. Yes. They tried to, like, they have a motions hearing coming up. where they are fighting the admissibility of the testing that the state did on Suzanne's remains, and they're saying that it's not good testing. They want to do their own testing. They have a motions hearing coming up on that. How can they do that if Barry's already cremated her? And they had 2 years to do this, but they just choose to do it now. Why? Did your expert say that the testing came back legit? So now you're scrambling. You got to get rid of her body, right? Cremated. It's not like they're just, burying her remains where they could be exhumed later. No, they want to cremate her. So all evidence is gone. And this is what I think they had their expert do their testing. And that expert came back saying the prosecution's testing is spot on. You've got no fight there. Nothing, you got nothing, right? That's what I believe. Okay, so the next document. This is Barry. I'm blowing it up so you guys can see it here. Now, this was filed. It doesn't even have the stamp at the top here. Anyway, Defendant Barry Morphew, response to motion to intervene and for order to show cause and temporary restraining order filed February 20th, 2026. Yes. Kai and Kendra. I can see you. Yes. It's not even the 23rd. It's September 22nd, 2023 is when she was found. And they've got September 23rd, 2024. Okay, so comes now defendant Barry Morphew by and through his attorneys Jane Fisher, Bryelson, and David Beller, and submits his response to the motion to intervene and for an order to show cause and temporary restraining order filed February 20th by Roberta Nielsenak on behalf of Macy and Mallory Morphew, and states as followed: defendant takes no position in the matter. No, you don't take no position in the matter. You're the one that signed the papers to have her cremated and released to the funeral home to have her cremated and paid for it. As the date for your motion is coming forward regarding the testing on those remains. Kyle and Kendra, is there no law in the state she was unalived in that protects someone's body who is a victim of crime? Yes. That's what we just went over in the prosecution's response. They can legally withhold releasing those remains when it is part of a murder trial, homicide. And not only until this trial is done, until any appeals or anything. And if he's found not guilty, they still get to hold them because now it's an unsolved homicide. And that is evidence. Her remains are evidence. If he's found guilty, he's going to appeal. Appeals could go on for 10, 15, 20 years. They can still hold the remains because they're part of that case, right? So he's saying that he takes no position, right? Well, you did take a position because you're the one that signed the releases and everything to have her released, and the release to cremate her, and you paid for the cremation. And you tried to do it sneaky, knowing that there were motions hearings coming up regarding these remains. Sneaky little bastard. But you're saying that nothing to do with me over here. Nothing to see over here. Bullshit. He's trying to get his daughters to do his dirty work. Okay, so this is 7 pages. So basically, this is now, since the prosecution put in their response, Mallory and Macy's lawyer, see, they didn't block out their names here. Roberta has now filed a reply to the state's reply to their motion to intervene. and for order to show cause and temporary restraining order. So Mallory and Macy Morphew respectfully submit this reply to the people's response opposing their motion to intervene and for an order to show cause and temporary restraining order. The people's response is notable for what it lacks. It cites not a single case from Colorado court, not a single constitutional provision directly addressing the right at stake, and not one statute that specifically authorizes law enforcement or a prosecutor to commandeer the lawful release remains of a murder victim from her own daughters. Come on. Right? Hey, Marie. Good to see you, sister. Sister from a different mister. I sent you an email back. So, like, I think, well, maybe it's because of my years and history in criminal law. So I will ask you guys, did the prosecution not explain good enough for this lawyer here to understand what lawful right they have to hold these remains? Do you think the prosecution explained it enough? Because I think they did. Like, they are giving all the legal reasons why and how they can hold Suzanne's remains. So what this is saying in the introduction here is ridiculous. It's like, go back and read their response, right? Right. Once a homicide case is active, the body can become evidence. Well, this isn't this is a murder, homicide, yes, and it is evidence. Her body is evidence. Any murder case, the body is going to be evidence. Okie dokie pokey. Yeah, the jury won't know anything about this unless, like, they haven't selected a jury yet. So a jury, like, say I'm in Colorado, I could be reading all this. I could be listening to somebody like myself right now go through all these documents and know exactly what's going on, right? Now, would they be able to bring this up during trial? They very well could. There's ways that they can get this in. If he was trying to tamper with the investigation or evidence while he is out on bond for the murder charge for this case, which he is trying to destroy evidence, I think he should be back in jail. He literally gave the okay to destroy evidence. Tried to have his daughters do it backdoor because we know the cops are watching him, right? So he's going to backdoor it and he's going to get his daughters to do his dirty work. Look, I'll sign all the papers, but you guys are going to have to go behind the scenes and do all this. We need her remains cremated because that evidence is going to sink him. And it's stuff like this, you guys, that when you're going through documents like this, you kind of get the feeling of what the defense is most worried about. Okay? When stuff like this happens, this is what they are worried about. They are worried about Barry being the only civilian that had access to BAM. Any government, if, like, I don't know what you guys call it there, but here it's Wildlife Bureau. All their doses that they have been accounted for. So the only one that can account for all the doses that they should have had was Barry. Barry's the only civilian that had BAM in all that part of Colorado, right? So and then what do they find in Suzanne Morphew's bones? BAM. Why didn't they find any hair of Suzanne's? Why didn't they find any skin of Suzanne's? Why are Suzanne's feet missing? Why were clothes just thrown in on top of her? Because where they found her, there was no decomp there. So obviously she had been moved. Why did they try to destroy her body so bad? Right? Because they wanted to get rid of the BAM. Yep. Yes, Kyle and Kendra, yes, it can be proven. They did a search, and the only other ones in all that half of Colorado that had BAM, that was civilian, was Barry Morphew. Now you have veterinarians, you have the wildlife people. So the police go to them, or the FBI or whoever go there and say, okay, who has the BAM? Who has purchased the BAM? It's only by prescription, so it's strictly monitored, right? So the veterinarians and the wildlife people that ordered BAM, they had to check their inventory to make sure they could account for every dose that they had purchased, and they could. So which leaves who? The only other person that had BAM was Barry. And there's some that's unaccounted for, right? And it was locked up in a safe, from what I believe. So there you go. Yeah, he thought that they would never find her body. Butterfly Dana, there's a phone number that I gave at the top of that, of the last document. Somebody can just call the office and say, hey, look, I don't have calling to the US. I'm in Canada, or I do it myself, but hello, Heather. Good to see you. Yes. Yep. Here in Arizona, it's Fish and Game. Okay, so they're basically just going over again. I will scroll through this, so if you guys want to go back and watch it, read it, you can. Let me just refresh this. Hang on a second, you guys. My studio is acting up here again. I don't know why this isn't showing. It's pissing me off. Anyway, I don't know why it's not doing this. Okay, anyway, so I will scroll through this. If it's just basically going over what they've already said in their motion to try and get their mother's remains. Courtney says, Marie says, I wonder, Willow, if they ever found the lady they were looking for when they found Suzanne. I don't know. I don't know, Marie. Courtney says, I'm so angry and disappointed in those girls. The only reason I can see is they aren't advocating for their mother and justice is money. Money is the root of all evil, Courtney. I agree with you. So, they're trying to pull at the judges. There he is. Parks and Wildlife. Martin, you want to come up on stream? Because these next documents I may need your help with, because I don't get it, what they're trying to say with the lawyer thing going on. I sent you the link to jump on if you want to jump on. So if there's Martin, everybody say hi to Martin. There he is. I haven't got to see Martin in a while. With all the Morphew stuff being under lock and key, it's kind of hard to go over everything, and some things that the news doesn't catch that we would catch or something like that. It pisses me off, but I mean, it is what it is. Hopefully they change their mind and allow us to watch at least the trial. So good to see you, Martin. Jump on if you want to get on. So here, trying to pull at the judge's heartstrings and stuff like that. The people's response is notable for what it lacks. It cites not a single case from Colorado court, not a single constitutional provision directly addressing the rights at stake, and not one statute that specifically authorizes law enforcement or the prosecutor to command her the lawfully release remains of a murder victim from her own daughters. Right? The response offers only conclusory assertions in matter of such profound constitutional gravity. The government's seizure of a mother's body from her grieving daughters. Stop it. The government's seizure of a mother's body from her grieving daughters on the eve of her Christian burial. What? Grieving daughters that have left their mother sitting in a mortuary for 2 years. April 2024, guys. They were told they could come and get her remains, and they've left her there for almost 2 years. Why didn't they go and pick her up 2 years ago? Right? Grieving daughters? I didn't see any of that. I haven't seen any of that grieving. Like, it pisses me off. Trying to make them out to be poor victims right now? No. Hell no. You left your mother sitting there, unburied, sitting in a mortuary for 2 years. The only reason that you wanted to do this now, and you want to pretend you're grieving now, is because you want to get rid of the evidence. The people attempt to reframe this dispute as simply a discovery preservation issue. It is not. This case prevents direct conflict between, one, the clear codified statutory rights of adult children as the lawful next of kin to control the disposition of their mother's remains. Wait a minute. Adult children as the lawful next of kin to control her. What? No. Then why did you need your dad to sign the release papers if you guys are the lawful next of kin? Why did you have to get your daddy to sign all the papers? Why did your daddy sign all the papers if you are the lawful next of kin? And if you're the lawful next of kin, why didn't you go and pick your mother up 2 years ago when they said she's ready for release? You can come and get her. Why didn't you go and get her? Why now? Why? Because now she's been found, and they found BAM that can be linked back to your dad? To X. Here, I'll put the link right here, Martin, so you can jump up. There it is there. I'd like to get Martin's take on all this. Grieving daughters, if you were grieving that bad and you wanted your mother to be honored, respected, and laid to rest, you would have done it 2 years ago when they called you and said, you can come and get her. Okay, I'm going to have to, let me get my earbuds in. So I don't get any feedback. I think he might have went over to X to check for the link, but I put the link right there for Martin to join. So yeah, so this part up here, The government seizure of a mother's body from her grieving daughters on the eve of her Christian burial. What? Piss off, right? There he is.
Those things. Can you hear me?
There he is. Yes, I can hear you. Can everybody hear Martin? I'm losing my shit, Martin. Like reading through this, the government seizure of a mother's body from her grieving daughters on the eve of her Christian burial. What do you think their motive is behind all of a sudden 2 years later wanting to go and pick up their mother and cremate
There's
her?
only one. There's only one motive.
Somebody, so, yeah, and it's saying here that the adult children as the lawful next of kin to control her disposition. Well, why'd they need Barry to sign if they're her lawful next of kin?
Yeah. Um, it's terrible what he's getting them to do. As you said earlier, he's getting them to do the dirty work.
Right? It's like if they would have in April 2024 when they said, okay, your mother's remains are being released, you can come and get them. If they would have went and got them then and did a
That's right.
proper burial, this would have been a different story. But you've left her there without a care in the world while you're out partying it up and going to Mexico and wherever else they're going and partying it up and spending all her money. She's been sitting alone in a mortuary or coroner's office, wherever she was, because they
Yeah.
never went to get her when they were told they could come and get her remains. And now they don't want to just bury her, they want to cremate her before all this testing that they requested and that they're fighting has been ruled on by the judge. There's motions coming up
Like
regarding her remains.
Barry's already reduced her to bones, and now they want to reduce her to ash. Uh, talk about trying to get rid of somebody
Yeah. They want to get,
facing
I think,
cameras.
like I had said earlier, like I've worked enough criminal cases to know what to look for to see what the defense is most worried about. And it's when you see shit like this, that's what they're worried about is that BAM was found in her system because that BAM can
Oh
be
yeah,
linked back to Barry.
and that this is the biggest. Like they have to protect this because it's killing their case. I mean, they whatever about other evidence, the DNA and all that sort of stuff. They could try and muddy the water, but this is clear cut.
Yeah.
You know.
I can, it's clear for me to see that what they're trying to do. They're trying to get rid of the evidence.
Oh yeah.
And then it's going to be like, it's going to be like, well, wait a minute. We had motions coming up. We had no idea the daughters were going to do this. Like, do you guys not? Oh my God, paper trail.
Yeah.
Barry signed, he not only signed to release her remains to the funeral home and signed the papers for the cremation, he paid for it in advance.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know
Yeah.
how he's doing that because the next set of documents coming up is really confusing to me. So hopefully you can
Okay.
make sense of it. But this here, I'm just going to scroll through this so we can get to those documents. Or I'll just leave this here. We'll jump back to it. Okay. So this is September 19th, 2025. Okay. Motion to change attorney status designation. Okay. Do you remember when this happened? When Barry applied for, got his bond and people bonded him
Yes.
out? And then he
That's
says,
right.
"Okay, well, I'm getting my own lawyers." And okay, so let's read this. Motion to change attorney status designation because he had what do you call them? The state was paying for the defense, right?
Yes.
Like he didn't have his own
Public
lawyers.
defender.
Public
Public
defender.
defender. Yeah.
Yeah. So David Beller, right? and Jane Fisher Brylson on behalf of Barry Morphew and moves to change their status designation from alternate defense counsel to privately retained counsel. Okay? This was on
Yeah.
September 19th, 2025,
They
right?
put a stroke. Yeah.
On today's date, supporters of Mr. Morphew posted bond on his behalf. As such, Mr. Morphew will exhaust all resources and pay for his representation moving forward, which means he's paying for his lawyers,
Yeah.
right? Well, to me, it's like, what? I didn't get it. You know what I mean? And then I started thinking back, okay, well, he had put all his property, his business, and moved most of the money to Mallory, right?
That's
So
correct. Yeah.
he's got some money, probably in his accounts to live off of. That's what I'm assuming. This is just assuming. So he's saying, okay, well, look at it. I got $100,000. Like, I'm going to hire my own lawyers. And I know what he was thinking, because if he hires his own lawyers, right? Lawyers he wants, and says, okay, I've only got X amount of dollars. We'll go until that, I guess, runs out, and we'll figure it out from there. Well, no, he did this. So after a year of having lawyers, the judge in turn, he's going to say, okay, now I got no more money. Meanwhile, he does, but it's all under his daughter's name. I need the state now to pay for my private attorneys.
Yeah.
So he gets
Yeah.
better attorneys than what any normal Joe Blow would have got.
Yeah.
And guess what he did? That's where these next documents come in. So it says, as such, Mr. Morphew will exhaust all resources and pay for his representation moving forward. Should his status change in the future, Mr. Morphew will comply with the requirements of Chief Justice Directive 404-4. Okay? So look at what happened. Is it this one? Okay. Motion to withdraw. This is filed March 6, 2026. So not even a year later. The Office of the Public Defender moves to withdraw as counsel on the grounds that there exists an irreconcilable conflict of interest in further representing the above defendant and states alternate defense counsel needs to be appointed. What? How can this be if he had private lawyers? And the irreconcilable conflict is witness-client conflict. Conflict persists as stated in July 9th, 2025. We don't have that motion to even look at, so I don't know what that's about. But July 9th, 2025 is one thing, whatever that motion is. September, so 2 months after this conflict, is when he retained them privately, right?
Yeah.
So why is this guy just withdrawing on March 6th of 2026 if Barry already had private attorneys starting in September of 2025?
I don't know, but it maybe the paperwork. I don't know. It's odd. Yeah, it's odd because
And then
he was the guy. This Jamie Kearns, is it?
Yeah, right here, Jamie Kearns. Why is he only? Because look at what's next. Okay, so this is filed March 6th, and they're stating something that happened in July. But after July, he hired his own attorneys. So this guy shouldn't have even been part of it anymore. He should have been gone last September, right?
Well, that's what I'm wondering did he not file his paperwork or whatever like that, and now it's only been filed? I don't know.
I don't know, but look at the next document. Appointment of counsel at state expense other than the public defender in a criminal or juvenile delinquency proceeding. Alternate defense counsel appointment, David Beller and Jane Brylson. These are the lawyers that he hired and he was supposed to privately pay. And now they want the state to pay for his lawyers. Exactly what I said he was going to do.
Yeah.
Now he wants, look at, well, I've hired these lawyers, but now I've ran out of money. Do we start all over from square one, or does the state now start paying for my private lawyers? And they
That's
are saying represents a witness or victim. A conflict persists as stated in July 9th motion. We can't get that motion. I'd like to see what that motion is.
is
See,
that not
and
is that motion not July 9th? Is that not available? No.
I don't believe so. Let me just take a look. But I want to read this first. David Beller and Jane Brylson, attorney at law, is appointed to represent the defendant in the above captioned case. The reason for the appointment of private counsel at state expense is this conflict that persisted as of July 9th. Well, wait, he didn't hire you as private counsel until September. So why did you become private counsel in September if there was a conflict that persisted in a July motion? Because you became private counsel 2 months after this supposed motion that caused a conflict. The only difference that I'm seeing is now he's not paying you guys direct. You guys want the state to pay for his private counsel. But let me go back and check here just to be sure. I already checked.
Jane's
I
been
could have
part
missed.
of this team for years. Like,
Okay, July. The only motions that we have in July are there's an order for the defense media coverage. Let me put this over here. Okay, so July 1st, expanded media coverage. This all has to do with media coverage. This one here is just the motion to adopt the conventional numbering system. That's for documents. Again, they spelt this wrong. Recusate. That's a request for expanded media coverage. Media coverage. Defense motion for preservation and production of material. Request for expanded media coverage. July 1st, defense motion to require notice of consent prior to any contact with Barry. And the witness list. And we went over that witness list on here, me and you. The next one we see is August. So the July 9th is nowhere to be seen here. We don't know what that is that they're talking about, this July 9th motion.
yeah,
We have no idea what it is because there's nothing here that has anything with a conflict or anything. Even these protection orders, this is all other stuff. Waiver of extradition. Yeah, there's nothing here that talks about July 9th. Nothing. Like I said, there's a lot of documents that are sealed that we can't see for some reason.
yeah,
Like, I get it that they aren't going to let us watch, but we should be able to access the public documents.
yeah.
Okay, Butterfly Dina says, Martin, is there a date mistake on the prosecution response to motion requiring release of remains, paragraph 1? Wrong date. Okay, we can go back to that. Right
She
here.
was found.
Yeah. And this is the district attorney. Yeah, they're saying she was found on September 23rd, 2024. No, she was found September 22nd, 2023.
Yeah, that's right. Somebody picked up on that in Reddit. I seen that. Yeah.
Oh, on what?
On Reddit, on Reddit, I seen somebody
Oh.
picked up on. Mentioned it.
Okay. Okay, so where were we with this? Okay, this other document here. Let me just make sure there's no more questions for you here. Oh. Okay. So playing on the heartstrings here, this pisses me off, the grieving daughter thing.
Yeah.
People attempt to reframe this dispute as simply discovery preservation. Well, that's exactly what it is. Did they not explain it to me? They explained it good enough when the state responded to Mallory and Macy's request that their mother's remains be released to them. The prosecution came back and gave every reason why they are not going to do that. That her remains are evidence for the trial, and because Barry wants to fight the testing that the prosecution had done and wants to do his own testing, and those motions are still outstanding. They are still to come. You know what I mean? They want to preserve the body in case they have to retest it again, in case the judge sides with the defense and says, okay, the testing wasn't done properly. You got to do it again. Well, they can't do it if Barry has her cremated, right?
Yeah.
And then they're going to say, well, dismissal, Your Honor. Right? They're going to go for a dismissal. So to me, this was Barry's way of trying to backdoor the prosecution.
Yeah, he was trying to pull a fast one. I said as much as well.
Yeah.
That this was just a get rid of the evidence and then say, well, we can't test the evidence, and for all we know, you didn't do it properly, and blah blah blah. Put doubt. You know what I mean? It's like
Well,
the
you know
same
what I
thing.
think? I think maybe that I can't see them not doing their own testing to this date, right? Because the prosecution put in there that they don't even have the name of the defense's expert that wants to fight the testing that the prosecution done and have his own opinion.
Yeah.
Well, by saying that, that means that whoever the defense retained has already looked at
Yes.
the results that the prosecution got, probably did his own testing, and came up with, oh shit, their testing is correct. And the only way out of this now is because they haven't gone through the motion yet. They haven't had that motion, and they haven't released the name of their expert yet because those motions are pending. They're already scheduled to happen next month. Because that hasn't been done yet, this way, if they get rid of Suzanne, they can say, well, our expert only went over their printout of their findings, right? Their opinion. He wasn't able to do his own testing yet. We were waiting for, our motions hearing. They could say anything.
Yeah.
Because they haven't filed anything yet. They haven't filed even their expert's name that they want to look at that. That's all done for a reason.
It's kind of like saying we don't trust the telematics from the truck. Now the truck's gone. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Or Suzanne's Range Rover or whatever. Do this is it's been retrieved. It's the testing has been done. Do you know what I mean? But by law enforcement. Do you know what I mean?
I still say they should have kept the Bobcat, his truck, but that's what happens what happened in the last trial when it was dismissed without prejudice. I still think that they should have held the truck, but they had no legal standing to hold the truck because he was released without prejudice.
Well, you notice they have admitted now that he altered the telematics.
Who authored that?
It was in the indictment, or something recently.
The defense hasn't agreed to that.
No, what I'm saying is the prosecution said, but they didn't say that before. Do you know what I mean? They never said that he altered his switched on and off his telematics.
I thought you said the defense had agreed that he had altered it, and it's like, what?
Oh
no, I didn't see that.
Well, it's obvious. It's as obvious as the nose on your face that he's because like for Friday we've got 1 minute and 5 seconds of truck telematics, but Barry drove around town where he would normally get telematics, but he's already had it before in the same areas. He's drove around town and for 40 nearly 48 miles. And he's got only 1 minute and 5 seconds of telematics.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Saturday, there's no truck telematics from 7 in the morning right through to 10:04,
Yeah.
and then there's no telematics. Um, and it's sporadic. Then you have no you have a little bit of telematics while he's down in the DSI getting the blade changed, but then you don't have it. He moved
Yeah.
the truck while he was down there, and it didn't come on for that. So he's been switching that thing on and off all week. You know what I mean? And funny enough, the day that we do have a lot of telematics, which is Sunday, we have nearly 6 hours of sorry, we have 4 hours of um, telematics, but we're missing another 5 hours, which is the journey from uh, Puma Pat to Broomfield and the journey back. But we have magically, when he arrives into Broomfield, where he wants law enforcement to see all his movement,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? He knew what he
Well, they
was
have
doing.
they have pictures too of
That's
different
what I'm saying.
places where
But
they
he,
picked up his truck, and if that's not coinciding with the telematics, then
yeah, but
you
there
know what
is
I
no
mean?
telematics. There is no
Right.
telematics. You see,
Where there
for the
should be.
journey.
That's what I mean. If there's no
Mm.
telematics and he's messing with the telematics, then okay, what else have you messed with?
Oh well, that's just the only good thing about the case being dismissed. Um, it's given them time to go over all the evidence and whatever and see. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Where beforehand, I think it would have been, uh, I think it would have been rushed, even
Yeah.
even if they did have her body remains.
Well, Linda
I think,
Stanley was just looking for her day in the limelight, I think, and she wanted
yeah,
to rush to trial and make herself look like something she wasn't, but which ended up blowing the whole case. But
yeah.
it's just when I start seeing stuff like this, Martin, that's being filed, like I don't think any of this is the daughter.
No, they're being
This
used.
this is this is like, and now that he's
This
out,
is
they can have private conversations where it's
yeah,
not being recorded. Like if he was still in jail, we would have
yeah,
all those conversations. He's out.
exactly.
They can have
Yeah.
these private conversations. Okay, well, what can we do? What can we do? We got to get rid of. What can we do? How can we do it? Okay, you need to do this. You need to do that. Well, I got to do this.
Oh,
Did the girls,
you,
like, I would like to know if the girls had tried on their own to go to the coroner's office and get her remains released. And did the coroner, like, these are all questions I would be asking. Like, did the girls go and try first to have her remains released? And did they say, no, your dad has to do it? And even so, he was released months and months ago. Why didn't they ask or do this months and months ago?
yeah.
If this was their intention, that they were so upset and hurting and uh, all this crap that they're trying to claim now,
There's
why didn't you do
nobody
that two
believing
years
this.
ago?
Nobody's believing this. You know what I mean? Because,
No,
as you said, why didn't they take the remains when the remains were offered to them? They didn't
yeah,
want
back in
them. No.
2024,
Yeah,
April,
and
almost 2 years.
so this is so obvious. Do you know what I mean? That he can't. The only way that he can do anything at all to help his case is to get rid of the evidence. And
Whoops, did we lose Martin? I think we lost Martin. Martin, are you there? We can't hear Martin. Well, I can't hear you. Can anybody? Martin? Are you there? Butterfly Dana says Marie Burks 599052. Oh, you guys are talking about something totally different. I think we lost Martin. He's not on my guest thing. Martin, where did you go? Okay, so we'll wait and see if Martin comes back. We lost Martin. Okay, well, while we're waiting for Martin, I'll bring this back up. Okay, so the people's response is illegally deficient on its face. Does the threshold matter? The people argue. There he is. I think he's just coming back in there now. Hang on. Nope. Where is he? He might have lost internet. I don't know if they're having storms there, you guys. Okay, so let's just see some of this. We'll wait for Martin to come back. As threshold matter, the people argue that the motion should be denied because the Mallory Macy cite no specific legal authority for the relief requested. This argument is both procedurally and substantially backwards. They have the fundamental right of next of kin under Colorado statute. The burden is not on Mallory Macy to identify a statute that specifically prevents the government from interfering. Okay, here's Martin. Where is you? Hang on, Martin. I'm getting to you here. Oh, we got large humming with Martin.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Is there a humming you say?
Yeah, I think it's okay. It's not that bad. So they're saying here now that Mallory and Macy have the fundamental right of next of kin under Colorado statute. Then why did they need Barry to sign for the release of her remains from the coroner and then sign the papers for cremation if they had that right? It doesn't make any sense. No, you're roboting, Martin. Try it again.
Hello?
There you are. Okay, you were roboting there for a minute.
Yeah, I just a little thing coming up saying there's a disconnection or something like that. I don't know what that is.
Weird. I don't know. Restream has changed so many things around here. It took me a while to even get my live up.
Okay. No, I just checked my internet. I seem to be fine.
So yeah, so there's another thing there that, like, this is the girl's lawyer saying that they have a fundamental right of next of kin under Colorado statute. Well, if they have the fundamental right of next of kin under the Colorado statute, why did they need Daddy to release her from the coroner's office and have her sent to the funeral home and then have to sign the papers to have her cremated and pay for it? If they had the right to do that, why didn't they just do it instead of having to have Barry do all the paperwork, right?
Yeah.
The response cites a standard yet produces no case law authorizing the retention of remains from lawful next of kin indefinitely through the pendency of murder prosecution. Oh, yes, it does. Her remains are evidence. And it's not just, okay, we have a deceased person with a stab wound. You know what I mean? We have a deceased person who has been mutilated, who has been, we don't even know what was done to the body to get rid of her hair and her skin and her feet. We still don't know where any of that is, right? And the BAM is in her remains, which is a big part of their case. Like, that is how she died.
Yeah.
It's not something that can be visibly seen as like a gunshot wound or a stab wound.
Yeah, like
So I don't know
he
what
couldn't
how.
like. It's so funny. I know it's not funny, but at the same time, like he couldn't have used anything else which would just point straight to him. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like if she'd been shot, that they would have to find the bullet and and
The
check it
gun,
against the
everything.
gun and all that sort of thing. And I would be the same thing. They would need the weapon to check it about the cuts and the bones or whatever. But the fact that he's the only person apart from
Right.
Parks and Wildlife, or veterinary surgeons and the likes,
Right.
um,
And they
just
went to
all
all
points
those
at him.
people that had got the BAM, and all of their doses of BAM are accounted for.
Yeah. Mm.
So it's not like somebody at the veterinary office or Parks and Wildlife stole one of the BAM and used it. No,
Yeah.
all theirs are accounted for legally, legal use, like for animals. Like if they would have had to put a bear to sleep or something to relocate it or whatever they use it for, right? Or an elk or whatever. All their doses were accounted for. The only one that couldn't account for all their doses is Barry. And Barry's the only one civilian that had BAM. It's
Like they,
very highly restricted.
when you think about it, they were hanging on to the DNA in the prelims. The Iris and Drew. They
Hmm.
were that was their big thing.
Yeah.
They wrote pages and pages about the DNA. Now there's a new. They're after getting a new witness, who's a DNA specialist added to the witness list. The
Hmm.
prosecution. So they're ready for them.
Oh, well, that's why it took so long for them to finally recharge him, is because they weren't going to make any more mistakes. Well, it's not that the 12th district didn't make the mistakes. It's the 11th district that made the mistakes, under
Yes.
Linda Stanley's care. And they weren't going to have a repeat. They were going to make sure they had all their ducks in a row before they went forward. Whereas Linda Stanley had a handful of paper. Well, I mean, they had more, but you know what I mean? Like a handful of post it notes in her hand and said, okay, let's go to
Yeah.
trial. You know what
I
I
don't
mean?
think
And
I don't think
we'll wing
Linda
it
knew
as
what
we
she said.
go.
To be honest, she didn't know. I don't think Linda knew what was going on. To be honest.
She was way out of her league.
Yeah.
So, uh, let's see what else is in here. Um, Critically, the people's response itself cites no case from Colorado or any other jurisdiction holding that a valid search warrant authorizes the indefinite retention of a murder victim's skeletal remains from the lawful next of kin throughout the entire pendency of a criminal proceedings and post-conviction review. The people have inverted the constitutional burden of proof. No, that's not true. Like, it's almost like this lawyer whipped this up without doing her research at all.
Oh yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, they
I I
cited the
I
laws and everything that give them legal authority to hold this because it's evidence
what we
right
call that
through all the appeals. And if he's found not guilty, they can hold it for an unsolved murder.
what we call that, Willow, is chancing your arm. You know what I mean? That's what that is.
It
That's just
is. And it's
hoping
like,
that the judge is just gonna feel sorry for the children. You
right,
know,
that had no sympathy or respect or regard for their
for
mother
siblings.
for 2 years, left her sitting in a cold coroner's office for 2 years.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden that they can't, I think their expert, the defense's expert, has said they got you on the BAM.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how do we get rid of this? Well, this
Yeah.
is how. Now all of a sudden the girls, oh my God, my mom, my poor mom, we got to, oh my God, the respect, we got to give her. Come on.
Well, to be honest, I'm going to. I, what I'm going to say is, I would say Barry said to the girls, "Look, they're trying to frame me here. They've actually put
Oh
bam
yeah.
on the bones, and they're trying to frame me. they're all against me and blah blah blah. Not, I don't think the girls for 1 minute. Well, look, I don't know, but I honestly don't think that they're. I think they're being manipulated, and they have been since they were children.
I
Do you know
don't
what I mean?
know about that.
I
I don't
know.
know about that. At the beginning, I thought that, Martin, but come on. Your mother's now been found.
Oh
They
yeah.
call you and they say, come and pick up your mother. And they don't.
Well, they were told not to.
This is all
Uh,
right now.
uh,
What's going on now? I believe Barry's manipulating them. Look at this is what I need you girls to do. If Barry, if the BAM wasn't such a big issue, I don't think them girls would ever go and pick up their mother. Why haven't they in 2 years?
they were told not to from their lawyers at the time. Iris Eaton, I think, and Jane. Um,
They
they,
told the girls not to go and get her and cremate her and bury her.
yeah, because that they had the responsibility of our bones or something like that, of our remains, and I suppose really the way they'd look at it is they need to be able to do their own testing, and but since then Barry's
Yeah, but
um,
don't forget, Iris, she wasn't found until after Barry was released, like it was let go without prejudice.
oh I know, long time.
So
Uh,
her remains were found a year later. Iris was
yeah,
already off his case.
yes,
So
but
once she
but
was
she was still
found,
representing Barry with the civil case,
yeah,
and
but wait a minute.
and Jane.
She listen, when she's found in 2023, Iris had nothing to do with Barry anymore, okay? April, so September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 7 months later, okay, Barry's still out. Barry's not charged again yet. They
Yeah,
were told, come and get your mom. Do whatever, bury, cremate, whatever you want to do, come and get your mom. Iris had nothing to do with Barry at that time. Barry wasn't arrested until almost a year late after that.
Iris made
Rearrested.
statements. Iris made statements at the time. Do you remember the coffee? She was saying that there was caffeine, and it was the coffee that she made a load of silly statements. Do you know about the biking clothes? She was saying it was the sweatshirt that was thrown in was the Colorado one, the from the university. Um, there
I
was
thought it was her biking outfit, her blue biking outfit that was found thrown in on top of the bones.
no, it was that sweatshirt that you know, the one where she's cooking.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's like a maroon
Shirley
color.
and Shirley's there. I think
Yeah, like the maroon colored sweatshirt that says Colorado something on it.
was it maroon? Maybe it was. For some reason I
Yeah.
thought it was grey. Um, but yeah, that that sweatshirt, and there was other stuff, you know. Um, but at the time, I remember at the time, Iris was saying that it was um, basically denying the fact that it was BAM. Do you know what I mean?
I don't remember that because from what I remember, is when Suzanne's body was found, Iris had no connection to Barry's case anymore. That's I don't know. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. I don't know. I thought
Mm.
that she had already said she was going in a different direction because Barry wasn't arrested from there
No,
for
Barney
a
wasn't
year
arrested.
and 5 months.
That's right. Longer, I think. So,
Well, she was
5 months.
found in September of 23. He was
Yeah,
arrested in May of 25.
yeah.
So a year and a few months.
The ninth. Yeah, yeah,
8 months, a year and 8 months.
yeah. 8 months. I'd say. Yeah.
But the bottom line is on the 24th, uh, in April of 2024, which was like 7 months after her body was found, they could have went and got her and
Mhm.
cremated her if that was their intention, that they
Yeah.
wanted to put their mother to rest, like what they're saying right now. Oh, we want to put her to rest, and we're
Oh yeah.
grieving, and we can't stop grieving until we got her in the put to rest. Okay, well, why didn't you do that back in 2024 when you were told to come and get her?
Yeah. And I remember that very well. And what I remember is I remember even writing about it, and that that they didn't even want her remains. Do you know what I mean? It was
Yeah, and that's what
disrespectful.
I'm saying. If it hadn't be right now for this, for the amount of evidence they have regarding this BAM, I think the BAM is central. That is what the defense is worried about. I think they're worried about other things, but I think they can play around with it a little bit to maybe get some reasonable doubt on certain things. But the BAM, they can't. It's the only thing that's, I think that the not the only thing, but one of the only things that the prosecution has that's rock solid is this BAM thing, and they need to get rid of it. They need to get rid of any evidence that is going to back that up. So, what evidence do they have that backs up the BAM that apparently there was BAM? Is her remains. And if they can get rid of their remains before these motions hearing, where they're going to want their own expert and they're going to ask for an order for their own testing, and they're going to fight the prosecution's findings, that hasn't even happened yet. So we got to get rid of these bones remains before those
Yeah.
motions hearings come.
It's never going to
And
happen.
I think Barry, oh no, they got him now. They're not getting him.
No.
And I think Barry said, "Look, I can't do this myself. It's going to bring too much heat. It's going to look like I'm trying to cover her up. It's going to look like I'm trying to destroy. You girls have got to do it, and you got to play it up at how much you're grieving." Well, I haven't seen any of this grieving. And if they were grieving so bad and wanted their mother buried so bad, why didn't they do it 2 years ago?
Oh,
Why
I've
now?
I've seen them acting. The crocodile tears, and you know, uh, we just know our dad so well.
Yeah, yeah.
We
And he's
just know him
basically
so well,
used them yet again.
and they're shaking their head no as they're saying this. We just know our dad
Yeah.
so well.
Well, look at we got all the text messages and everything, Martin. So for Macy to get up there and say, "No, there was never any,
Oh
my
yeah,
mother wasn't, no, she wasn't scared." Macy, do you not remember the conversation with your mother where you said, "Mom, get a restraining order. We'll move to Salida, get our own
yeah.
little place,
Begged her,
divorce them."
basically begged her to divorce.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
when her dad,
and on the Sunday she takes Miles and said, "I'm only I'm worried that they had a big fight and it's going to ruin my summer and blah 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 blah." And
yeah,
you know, not thinking that, but she
yeah.
knew. They all knew.
Well, she
You
knew
know.
that her mom was terrified to be alone with her dad.
Yeah.
She knew
Mm,
that too.
yeah.
And that's why she was saying to her mom, divorce him, get a restraining order. We'll move to Salida. We'll get our own place. We'll get away from him. Like, and then to sit there and blatantly say, "Oh, no, I never seen anything like that. No."
But
Like,
that's like Barry done that. Barry said, "You're not going to see that boy anymore, that Miles, and that's over with. And you have to retract everything you said, because
yeah.
they're trying to frame me, they're trying to lock me up. You know,
But I
that's
don't
what
I
he
don't believe that these girls are as innocent and as
but they were vulnerable,
ignorant to
like
everything. You know what I
maybe
mean?
not.
No, they
But
see dollar signs. I didn't want to believe
I,
this at first, Martin, but that's what I'm seeing.
I know, but I know, but look,
Especially with Mallory, because Mallory's got everything. And what does she say when she's pulled over by the cops? Years, not even a year ago. "Oh, I own two houses. I own this. I own that." Like,
Mm.
You
Look,
know what I mean? It's like, wow.
it's no matter what you say, they were in a horrible place with a horrible person for a long time. Suzanne was in it
Hmm.
for a long, long time and didn't even realize it herself how bad things were till she's seen the other side. How people
Hmm.
can, like, that was the only man she ever really was ever with, and she probably thinking this is normal until she had this affair, and all of a sudden she's being treated a lot better. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And uh, then she kind of saw the light, if you ask me. But if that's all you know, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he was using these girls, come down here, shouting at the girls to come down, that your mother is accusing me of having an affair. I need them on my side. I need these girls on my side. You know, bringing them into an argument, a marital argument, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Do you know what I mean? That they
I don't
are
think they're
victims.
as naive as everybody thinks,
No,
though. I
no,
really
no.
don't.
I just know how it can happen. So I can accuse Barry of murder because I know he did this, but I won't accuse them of something that I don't know for 100% because I know they're all re victims, and it makes me side a bit more with them because they wouldn't be like this only for what Barry did. Do you know
Mm.
what I mean? They would have been brought up by their
But, like,
mother.
what I'm talking about, though, Martin, is right now. Like, they're both adults now.
Yeah,
You know what I
not
mean? Like, well
not
into
children,
adulthood.
as
So
it
they're
says
not
in the
kids
document.
anymore. And it's like, you can't tell me that they're not. Well, I mean, we were all brought up different. Maybe I don't think they lived that sheltered of a life. They were out on vacations by themselves and everything else. But I know at that age that they are, I can put two and two together. I can see with my own eyes. And like, especially if it was something like this involving one of my parents, I would be extra vigilant in watching what my dad was doing,
Yeah,
just to make sure. And then, okay, Dad, why are you pushing us now to cremate mom? You
yeah.
know what I
I
mean? Like,
know.
don't tell me
Like,
one and one isn't adding up to two here in their
like
heads.
what I would say is when Barry's locked up behind bars, these girls, I wouldn't give them one bit of sympathy if they don't come forward with the story. But I feel that they're still afraid. Like, it's nearly 6 years, and
Mm.
they must at night time look back and say, why, what happened to the bed, the bedside furniture? Why was one side,
What happened to the bedroom door that was kicked in?
yeah, or at the bedside locker that was missing? Do
Hmm.
you know what I mean? They're two different ones, and the lamp is different. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yep.
and inside the fireplace there was furniture that was burnt. Do you know what I mean? Not
There
just
was also her journal. Why?
her
If he
her
had nothing to
journal,
do
yeah.
with it, why are all these things being burned?
But and there must have been he must have done some things around the place, move things around outside, and you know, like the
That they
cameras
would
are
have
gone.
recognized because they lived there.
Yeah, 100%. They would have walked in uh, and said, and he probably was, oh, that must have been law enforcement when they were pulling everything apart and whatever, and they broke stuff and I had to get rid of it. He'd have a story. He'd probably turn around and
Yeah.
say, "Oh yeah, a bear came in and with
A bear
with
come
two
in.
chipmunks
No, it
and
was a mountain lion with the
yeah,
chipmunks.
yeah,
Courtney
you
says, I
know,
have a hard time with it because they already have the money, especially the youngest one who knows. I do believe Macy knows that. I think she has an
or
inkling her dad
oh,
did it,
Macy
but she can't
would
say it.
know more. I think Macy knows more than Mallory.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, let's put it this
The
way.
only reason
Macy,
she has to stay silent is proximity to the money. I agree, Courtney. I think the only reason, like right now, it's like I don't know if Macy has finished college or whatever. I don't know what's happened with her life since, all this with Suzanne happened, but it's like you notice when Barry was hiding everything, the properties, the money,
Yes.
the businesses, everything is under Mallory. Not Mallory and Macy,
Yes.
Mallory. Mallory's the one that had no problem as a girl going out and shooting and killing animals with her dad
Yes. Yes.
and
A tough one.
holding them up like, yeah, like,
Yeah. Daddy's girl. Daddy's
well,
girl. 100%.
girls usually aren't at that age. You know what I mean? I think she was what, 15 or 16 at that time, 17. Um,
Yeah.
Girls aren't as likely to be that excited of killing animals and
Right.
posing
No.
with them as males would be. And that's, I'm not trying to say anything bad against males. Males usually like to go hunting with their dads. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whereas Mallory, it's like she was comfortable with that as could be. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Whereas Macy was more a girl's girl. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And Macy's seen a lot more. You can tell by the conversation she had with her mom,
And that's what I'm saying.
right?
Mallory was away for, because things probably were a bit tough when they were in Indiana, but definitely when they got to um, Colorado, um, Suzanne more or less immediately got contact with Jeff. You know,
Mm.
so there
She didn't want to go to Colorado.
she didn't she didn't know, but because she was still she was going through treatment, at the time, and
Yeah.
um, I I suppose she probably felt that she wanted to be near Mallory. I suppose, you know what I mean.
Mm.
That was probably the main reason. And maybe just if she thought that Barry was having an affair in Indiana, maybe she thought that the move might things might be better. You know what I mean? Or maybe he convinced
Mm.
her that they would have
I think
a
he did that to
restart.
isolate her.
Oh, 100%. 100%. He didn't want her family and friends sticking their nose and oar in. That's for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, there's just, okay. I'm going to scroll through the rest of this just so for those who do want to read it, um, see if I can catch it. I haven't read this yet. So here, the critical question which the people's response does not address is what statutory authority permitted the state to seize already released remains from a funeral home. Well, they were released 2 years ago and you didn't go and get them. So to me, you've what? How can you say that? Abandon them? They were released 2 years ago. You didn't go and get them. And now that we have your dad rearrested, and this is the biggest one of the biggest pieces of evidence we have against him. Oh, now you want her remains. You know what I mean? But anyway, they do give the which authority that they did seize those remains. They got a court order, right? But a warrant does not, by its own force, create authority, retain the property that indefinitely, or to override specific statutory rights of the lawful next of kin. Well, in this case, it does, and they cited the codes that they could do that under. So they just go into the Victims' Rights Act supporting interveners' standing and rights. But I mean, each case is going to be different. Each case is going to have its own set of circumstances. And like I had said before, when you got a body that's, somebody's been shot, you got the bullet, you got the photos of the shot, you can't see the BAM. You know what I mean? It's not a big blue dot that's on her. That's BAM, and that's all it could be. They need those remains because the BAM is in those remains. It's not. It hasn't been. How can I say it? The evidence hasn't altered an outside force, like to show like a bullet wound or a stab wound or something like that, or a baseball bat to the head where your head split open or something. This is something that can't be seen with the naked eye. So, I mean, I think the prosecution's got a good case, and I do think that the judge is going to deny this. I think that the remains are going to be held. And I think that they're going to be held long after. If Barry is found not guilty, like they said, that they're still going to request to hold the remains because now they got an unsolved homicide. If
Well, I
he's found
think,
guilty, it's going to be held for all the appeals because new lawyers are going to want to do new testing and so forth and so on.
yeah, that's true. But I also think that if it did happen that the judge allowed them to have the remains, this is works out very well as a very good argument. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
So they'd say, look, you could have tested them. You know, you had plenty of opportunity to, and what did you do? You couldn't wait to get them um, cremated. You know,
yeah.
so it's your own fault, basically.
Okay,
You know,
Marie, you go lay
but
down. I don't think the judge is going to allow it. I think she's going to deny the motion. And then see here, Mallory Macy, do not seek to destroy evidence. Well, cremating her is destroying the evidence because the evidence is
yeah,
inside those bones. It's not a bullet hole on the outside of a bone or a stab mark on the outside of a bone. It's inside the bone that you can only do by testing it. If you have
it
remains
was
to
in the
test,
humerus. It was in the the humerus where it met the hip. I think was that is where
I
they
don't remember where they.
I
I
think
was
so.
sick to my
It
stomach
was that
even. I started to read
top of the
that.
bone.
I started to read it, Martin, and I just couldn't get through it. All I had to see was, oh my God, they found the BAM.
Yeah, brilliant.
So, if the defense later challenges the testing and court determines additional examination is necessary, that issue can be addressed at that time with appropriate court supervision. Well, it can't be addressed at a later time if she's cremated. You know what I mean? That makes no
Yeah,
sense. If the defense later challenges the testing and a court determines additional examination is necessary, that issue can be addressed at that time. Well, no, it can't be addressed because she would have been already cremated. It
yeah.
just I don't know. It just I don't think the judge is going to allow them to gain um the remains back.
As I said, they're just chancing their arm here because no judge is going to let them have the evidence. You know,
Okay, so let's go through
they
this.
have the evidence.
The relief requested. For the foregoing reasons, Mallory Macy respectfully requests the court that issue an order to show cause directing the people to appear and demonstrate by specific statutory and constitutional authority what justification exists for indefinitely withholding Suzanne Morphew's remains from her lawful next of kin. Issue a temporary restraining order prohibiting the people from further interfering with Mallory Macy's constitutional and statutory rights pending a full hearing. Order the people to complete within a time certain consistent with the court's existing scheduling order any additional sampling, testing, photography, documentation they deem necessary, and then after release the remains. Well, no, because it's not just the people that may want to retest something. The defense has said they want their expert to test it.
Yeah,
Award attorney's fees and costs as authorized and applicable state law, and grant other and further relief as this court. What, you going to go after punitive damages too because you left your mother there for 2 years? It's
and this
just like,
this this is actually a good point because maybe they were making sure that they were going to be reimbursed for all their lawyer fees. You know what I mean? Or not? Well, not the fact that they were going to be covered now as public defenders, more or less. You know what I mean? They were going to be paid by the state before they started to do tests and run up big bills. Do you know what I mean?
right. And that's why I said, I think that whoever this expert is that they got to go over the report that was done by the prosecution's
Yeah,
experts, he probably went over that and said, "No,
they've done
there's
it right.
nothing I
Yeah,
can do.
they've done it
Nothing I
correct.
can
Yeah,
do. They've done it correctly. There's nothing I." Okay, so now they gotta pay this guy, and they didn't get what they wanted. So
yeah.
now we're gonna do this, and you're gonna pay all our legal fees. so they can now pay for that expert that told them that they were screwed, basically.
You want to put him on the prosecution's witness list.
Well, they're on the prosecution's witness list already. And I'm just
No, I mean
wondering, somebody mentioned this earlier. It's like, it's not like the jury's ever going to hear about this. Oh, they may. If
yeah,
if the prosecution can prove that Barry tried to get rid of evidence here through his daughters, this absolutely could come in.
yeah,
And if it comes in and a jury hears that they left their mother there for 2 years in a cold coroner's office, not giving two shits about her until Barry needed her remains cremated, so this bam shit was gone and no further testing could be done. You know what I mean?
yeah. This could have worked against them, really, when you think of it,
It could
because
have.
because the fact that, as you said, if he was in behind bars in jail, he couldn't do a lot of this stuff. Do you know what I mean? But the
Right.
fact that he could be recorded, for all we know,
The
conversations could
thing
be
is,
recorded.
the thing is with this, because he's out on bond, we don't know what the discussion was between him and them girls to
That's what I'm
get the
saying.
girls to
Yeah,
do this, right?
yeah,
Whereas if he would have been in jail, there would have been jail calls or letters, unless the lawyer was slipping him stuff. You know what I mean? But even if he was in jail, um, they would have had to bring paperwork in. Like his lawyer could have brought the paperwork in for him to
yeah.
sign, but
Or
then
phone
they got him
calls.
doing this from jail, right? Huh.
Mm,
But I think that they want those remains gone.
they do 100%.
Like they don't want the jury to see. Like I'm sure they're going to bring this into court. They're going to be bringing the remains into court. They're not going to just show pictures. They're going to be bringing those remains in. And this is what we got left of Suzanne. What did he do to Suzanne to put her in this state? Because this is the state we found her in with no decomp around her, no hair, no skin, no feet. We still don't got her feet. As far as I know,
And
there was no indication of any animals digging
no, there
where she
was
was found.
no.
So it's like, what did you do with her feet? And why would you take her feet?
Yeah,
Where's her bone? Where's her skin? Where's her hair? And why is there no decomp? That's how they. And my read said he moved her.
and why are the
And
bones
everybody's
bleached?
saying, no, 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 he wouldn't have moved her. She would know. She's been put somewhere and that's good. No, she's been moved.
Why were the
And
bones
that's what this,
bleached as well, Willow?
right, right.
And we haven't been told whether they've been bleached by the sun or chemically
Or something
bleached.
else. Yeah.
But
I would
I
assume
believe they
it
were
would be
chemically
chemically.
bleached. No, I
Yeah.
believe 100%.
I believe she was in a barrel somewhere,
Yeah, 100%.
maybe in his at his friend's place there near Moffat.
Oh no, I believe she was in a barrel, or not, well, in somewhere in very close to Broomfield.
You think so?
Yeah, storage unit, close to, right close to Broomfield.
Well, she was moved twice, they say.
Thornton, or close to
What was
Thornton.
that place? Do you remember where I got that area near the park,
Oh, Sand Creek Park.
Sand Creek Park?
Yeah, but this place where I believe she was stored, um, and other things were stored there, um, would have been Henderson slash Thornton, and it's where his phone pinged, where he had, um, they were on that morning, you know. But
In
and
Thornton?
in Thornton, and there was one in Henderson, Alton Road.
Oh, I didn't
Is
know
where,
about those.
yeah. There was three, four. One was Colfax Avenue. or is it Colfax Avenue? Is it? Yeah, I think it is. And then there was another one in Thornton. There's another one in Henderson, and there's another one in just Broomfield. It's
Who's he know out there?
well, the one that was in Broomfield was right close to one of the council offices, and I presume he it's where you would go to get um, a license or whatever. Do you know? If
Okay.
so, that could be. It's just so close to it. It looks to me that that could be why he was there. Not on a Sunday morning, I may add, but the other one is right in an industrial area, and it just so happens there's a lot of storage facilities there, and there's a
So you
river
think he
that
might have got a storage facility out there?
a lockup, yeah. And he went
Yeah, but
to
wouldn't
the
they
lockup.
would be able to get that information?
No, not necessarily, because a lot of these storage facilities, they people pay cash, and it's the old boys club, the
The good
kind
old
of thing.
boys.
The good old boys, yeah.
Yeah,
And
because they'd
once you
have
pay,
cameras or whatever, especially for storage areas, right? So
you,
unless somebody's
you would
covering
think
big time for them.
exterior storage facilities. These are like
Uh,
units, and then there's
mhm,
another one that you can actually store your own camper or your boat or trailer, boxed in trailer, and if Barry was up there doing work in Broomfield, he may need somewhere to store his tools and stuff while he was working up there. Do you know what I mean? It'd be interesting
mhm.
to see
Well,
what he
we know
used.
he didn't have no tools that day for a job that he was supposed to be
No,
doing
but
on
in
a Sunday, which he
2019,
wasn't allowed to work.
in 2019, when Cody Cox was up there with him doing the original wall,
Okay.
where did he keep his tools? Do you know what I mean? Of a
Mm.
night time. Do you know what I mean? So, but this place is runs. There's a river that runs right beside this place, and where do you think that river runs to?
Down through Maysville and everything? No?
No, no, we're talking about up above Denver. So this
Oh,
river, first it's called First Creek, and it runs all the way down into Sand Creek, which runs down Sand Creek River, which runs down to Sand Creek Park.
ah. See, that's where I was drawn
So
to was Sand Creek Park.
yeah, so I was thinking that Barry went up on Mother's Day and dumped that cooler and that blanket and tarp into the river at Sand Creek Park, just from the motorway, just from Piera Street, and just
Hmm.
threw them in
Well,
over
I got the
the
pictures of all
bridge.
that. I got the pictures of
Mm.
that.
So I thought that that's what he done, right? And then they weren't found till August, September of 2020. And then I'm now saying to myself, well, I know now that he they they knew his phone pings, and he couldn't have possibly gone that way. So I just forgot about it for a while, and then I was looking again at that map, and I said to myself, "Oh my God, water! If he threw the stuff into a river, it would have flown down." And I followed the
Mm.
river up, and where did the river bring me? Right where his phone pinged. It went up one
Oh.
river, and then onto another river, and like 100, maybe 200 yards from where his phone pinged is this river. And then I looked at what's around there, and there's lots of industry. It's all like trucking and storage, and there was a lot of storage units there back in 2020. There's not as many now, but in 1 mile radius, there's two, and they both are just one of them. The creek runs right beside the storage unit.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
what I'm saying is, she was in there, but he didn't throw that cooler and blanket away until he moved her,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when he moved her in, say, September time, he like there would be a lot less to move. Do you know what I mean? If that was
Yeah.
sitting in chemicals for all that time,
Mm.
and then he would have just dumped the contents into the creek, and then instead of it sinking to the bottom, it's full of polystyrene, and it just floated down the first creek, down at the Sand Creek, down at the Sand Creek Park where it was found.
Hmm.
What do you think of that?
Yeah. That makes sense now. Yeah. Philip says
Makes sense.
animals ate part. No, there's no way animals would have got at her. Like they're
No,
not
no,
going to leave her out
it
in an
said,
area where an animal could. They needed
yeah,
to
it
get
said there
rid
was
of
no
her.
animals. Yeah,
Yeah, and where she was buried, there was no evidence of any animal gnawings on the bones or anything like that. So
no,
no,
that's correct.
but
There was a
the
glove
feet.
found there.
Listen to this one, Martin. Better Butterfly
Well,
Diana says, "Remember, I believe there was feet marks in the dirt on the bobcat or trailer. I believe that's the reason.
that's
No
right. On
feet."
on the bobcat, on the buckle of the bobcat, there was a two bear footprints. No, not bear as in the bear,
Yeah,
but
like
just
somebody with no
two.
shoes on.
Yeah, somebody with no shoes on. But I actually that was Barry myself, because of
Rushing around after he
just
did what he did to Suzanne in the house that night.
after cleaning
Yeah.
when he was using a lot of water, because like on the Friday or Saturday morning when he's down at the when he's down at getting the blade done, uh, that bobcat and trailer are spotless.
Yeah, I got the pictures of that. And then
Sure,
later
yeah,
on, there's
yeah,
all kinds of dirt and that on it.
yeah. There's dirt. So it's like he was up to something, but it could have been just we don't know. Do you know what I mean? Could have been covering tracks, or he could have been God knows. I don't
I
really
don't
know
know
what he was
that
at.
that little entranceway going into where Kurt had found a spot there. There was a little trail that
That's
had
right.
been made in and out of there, and that caught my eye too. And it's like, okay, well, what was going? What? Why is he
Yeah,
going
there's
over
a
there?
trail.
Like, why is he going over there?
I'm just wondering, did you know that they would be checking on, like, it's like the cameras in where he got the plate changed.
Hmm.
Barry was in his truck um, at the time when the messages were sent to Libler.
Oh, we lost Martin again. Martin, Martin, we lost Martin again. Hello. I could hear some. Oh, we lost Martin. We lost Martin. He'll be back. I don't know if it's my software. I hear buzzing on his end, so he may be having some internet problems or something over there. But yeah, there's a lot of things that weren't making sense. We've gone through a lot of them with the photos and stuff like that. Okay, so while we're waiting for Martin, okay, so the conclusion. And like I said, I scrolled through this, so if you guys wanted to go back and read through it all, you can. People asked this court to permit them to retain a murdered woman's remains indefinitely, potentially through decades of litigation based on speculation about what may someday be needed. They do so without identifying a single cause or statute specifically authorizing this result, without addressing the clear statutory rights of her daughters as lawful next of kin, without providing any meaningful analysis of whether their conduct is narrowly tailored to a compelling interest. The law of Colorado is clear. In right, a final disposition of Suzanne Morphew's remains belonged to Mallory and Macy Morphew. If that was true, then why did Barry have to sign for everything? That right is not extinguished by a search warrant and not overridden by a prosecution. This court should grant the relief requested, protect the constitutional rights of these victims, and permit them to finally bury their mother with the dignity and faith that she deserves. Yeah, too bad they didn't do that 2 years ago, right? So to me, it's just like they're trying to play on the court's sympathy, but I do not think. What's this? Moreover, the people's concern about future testing needs is completely diminished by the fact that the El Paso County Coroner's Office still has pulverized bone material available for further scientific analysis. And it says here up here, the forms attached by the people are void as a matter of law under. Oh, there's Merton. We got Martin back. There you are.
I had to come back in again.
Ah. Yeah, I just we were just going through some of this as we were waiting for you to come back. Did you see this? The people's concerns about future testing need is completely diminished by the fact that the El Paso County Coroner's Office has, and in bold, still has pulverized bone material available for further scientific analysis.
Yeah.
It's just like, and then that they're entitled to take possession of their mother's remains for burial. Well, you should have done that 2 years ago, and we wouldn't be here right now. But anyway, so this is all going to happen on the 30th of March. It looks like Mallory and Macy's motion is going to be heard the same day. The lawyer says it's only going to take them about 30 minutes. I think it's going to be less than that because I think that the prosecution has stated, and I mean, they got court orders. The court doesn't order remains to be kept without lawful excuse. You know what I mean? It would be a judge that would say, you guys better bring me something more because you don't have enough here for me to keep somebody from burying their loving mother. You know what I mean? No judge is going to go, oh, yeah, okay, if that's what you want. Yeah, whatever, make up something. You know what I mean? They have to have lawful reasons to do so. A judge isn't, especially in a case like this, where it's, you know, two daughters fighting to get their mother's remains. Regardless of whether they left her there for 2 years and did nothing anyway. There's ulterior motives to this, and I don't think the judge that signed off on this is stupid either. Knowing that, you know, to get this order, they're going to say, you know, well, to get this order, the prosecution would have had to put forth some evidence, and they probably said, Your Honor, they were told back to almost 2 years ago to come and get their mother. They didn't do it. Now, all of a sudden, because it's a big part of our murder case, our homicide case, now they want to get rid of something that contains the evidence that our case is based on. You know what I mean? So, and, you know, the judge probably looked into it and seen, you know, what the lawful ways that they could retain and keep loved ones from burying their loved one. I don't think the judges would do that lightly, especially in that circumstance. It's not just I want my car back. You know what I mean? This is a human remains, and I don't think unless they had justification and lawful reason to do so that a judge would have ever signed off on that. So I think this is going to be mute, and I think that they're going to lose. I think it's going to be denied, and the case goes forward, and we're going to see. Well, I think it's going to be. That's my best guess, but we'll see what Barry tries to do next. Because I do believe that this is coming from Barry. Girls, you got to do this for me. Beg, cry, throw
100%.
a fit, pull your hair 100%. Out. I don't care what you got to do. Get this done. Get get her cremated, get rid of the evidence, and I think he is behind it, right?
And as I said, I think somehow it's going to look so bad, and the fact that
Yeah.
El Paso have the crushed bone in saved somewhere in a some type of container, whatever, for testing. Do you know?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's going to look so bad that he's trying to still get rid of Suzanne. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. They never did find her phone, Butterfly Dana. They never found her.
No, never found her phone. But
That's in water
strange.
somewhere. That phone is gone. It's in water. It'll be found by, those guys. They have YouTube channels. I watch them sometimes. I forget what their names are. They go out in the water and
Oh, purpose. Yeah,
with their
ventures with purpose.
not Adventures with
Yeah.
Purpose. It's two young guys,
Oh.
and they go with their metal detectors and everything and
Oh
search for stuff
yes.
at the bottom,
Yeah.
or what do they call that? Fishing with
Magnets.
magnet
Magnets.
fishing.
Yeah,
I see a lot of
that's it. Yeah.
YouTubers doing that. I like that kind of stuff. Like, oh my God, I wonder how long that's been down there. You learn a lot because, like, especially the ones that go for like vehicles and stuff like that, and they're magnet fishing, and they find the one young kid found a 1973 car that was like you touch it and it disintegrates. But
Yeah.
until it's
Yeah.
touched, it's still sitting there, you know what I mean? And you touch it and
Yeah.
pieces are
Yeah.
just breaking off. It's like, holy crap, that thing's been down there for that long. Some of the stuff that
My
they
car's like that.
find, unreal. They found a
Mm.
metal container all full of somebody's war medals in a
Uh,
metal, those metal boxes that the army used to use, those metal boxes,
yeah. Ammo.
ammo
The ammo
boxes, that's
boxes.
it.
Yeah.
And when they opened it, they were expecting to find ammo, and they found all these medals from wartime.
Yeah.
It was wild, wild. And they go to the Bahamas and stuff like that in what's that called when they get a bunch of boats together in a little cove and they have a big party going on? People
Yeah.
lose their phones, their
Yeah.
rings, their earrings, their
Spring
necklaces.
break.
Yeah, spring break stuff like that. And they go, and then once everybody leaves, they go with their metal detectors and they find rings, watches, necklaces, wallets, phones, you name it. Oh, it's interesting. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. But yeah, they
Yeah.
never found her
No.
phone. So it's in water somewhere. Eventually it will be found by somebody like that. Maybe.
Yeah. Barry always kept saying to have her phone. I'm sure to have her phone. Yeah. He knows
Yeah, he
exactly where
knows
her
where it
phone
is.
is.
Or he could have thrown it in the
The thing is,
the the chemicals with her to make sure even if it's found, because some phones, if it's an iPhone, some phones, they could be
yeah.
underwater for a couple of years and they can still get data off them. So maybe he
Yeah.
corroded it by throwing it in chemicals too. Who knows?
There was a computer one time that was they burnt it in a bonfire and they still managed to get some data from it,
Amazing, eh?
even though it just looked like, well, yeah, it was brilliant. But the I'd love to know whatever happened with the Range Rover telematics,
I don't know.
because we never ever got to
Did
hear.
did they
So,
even get telematics off the Range Rover?
well, apparently, like, it's in the documents. It said that it was when what's her name, Iris Eaton, kept asking for the data, and they were having some problem with the disk, or with the whatever way it was, they were transferring it with some type of chip or a USB or whatever drive,
Hmm.
and they couldn't open it or whatever. Or that's what they were saying, and it was just before the case was dismissed. It was the last of
Well,
the
I never even
prelims.
heard of them getting telematics from the Range Rover.
Yeah, they were trying. They said they got them, and they also said that they were very. What was the word they used? Something like interesting information on there.
Huh.
Uh, yeah,
You know what we
and that was
haven't
it
heard
then.
about in this filing?
Uh,
That pen, that spy pen.
Spy pen. Mm, yeah.
Okay, Butterfly Dina has a question. Would those chemicals he put Suzanne in show in her bones like the BAM did?
That's what I was actually interested in.
Depends
Um,
which chemical I think he
like
used.
I'd say it was shock, and it was that because if you remember right, he says that he went
The
on
pool chemical.
Friday. He rang Colton on Friday at 1:19 and 16 seconds or something, and said he wanted the looking for hot tub chemicals,
Yeah,
whatever. And then he also said in an interview with Cahill and Derek Graham that
he had to get those pool
he
chemicals
they asked
or
him.
spa chemicals.
He says, "Yeah." He said, "I think it was Wednesday," and then he says, "No, I'm pretty sure." He says it was Friday, and so Friday ties in with Colton, the call to Colton. And then he says, then later he says, yeah, it could have been Wednesday, but I'm pretty sure it was Friday.
Mhm.
So he went and got those chemicals on the Friday. But then on
Yeah, but
Saturday,
would the
when he's
chemicals that
pretending
he
to
would
be,
get for the spa or the hot tub or whatever,
would be,
would they bleach her bones? Would they eat through
yes,
her
well, it's
skin?
chlorine. Basically, it's chlorine based. It's basically what, like your old household bleaches kind of thing. Um, like basically what he was doing was to clean out the hot tub, the drains from the hot tub or whatever. That's what he was saying. So he got these shock chemicals,
Yeah.
and but also, if you remember right, there was the phone calls that between Barry and Suzanne on Saturday, and one of them was get hot tub stuff. So I believe he actually got more chemicals on the Saturday um, from Poncho Lumber because he was parked at Poncho Lumber just when that just before that at that time
Mm.
when that
So to
when that
replace the
text was
chemicals that he
sent.
used on her?
But probably just needs so much of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because he'd have to
To
cover her
clean.
whole body in it. And I know bleach.
Oh no, she would no, she would have been whatever whatever other body there was um, would have been in that like in a in filled up
Yeah,
with shock. And so if you put it into a say a cooler and then you topped it up
yeah,
with
with the
um,
chemicals.
chemicals, yeah, it wouldn't take
And
long.
bleach,
Do you know what I mean?
bleach and chlorine, like chlorine probably at full strength. I'm not sure that. I'm going to Google that. But I know bleach will burn your hair right off.
Oh yeah,
Will
yeah.
um chlorine
I accidentally done that when I was a kid.
uh
I was taking a shower and I had somehow I thought I was using a shower shampoo, and I was had suds in my eyes or whatever, and I must have picked up some bleach, a bottle close to it, and there was bleach in it, and I just washed. And then when I went out that day, I had this white, it was like a badger
mm,
or, or a skunk, this white
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 streak.
stripe down
Okay, so it says
streak down.
here you should never use chlorine or bleach to clean or whiten bones. While it may appear to bleach the bone initially, it will severely compromise the structural integrity, causing the bone to become
Yeah.
brittle, flaky, and eventually crumble to dust. So
Yes.
that's what
So that would
chlorine
have
or
been,
bleach would do. So it would turn the bones
yeah,
bleached, but it would also compromise the structure, causing the
yeah,
bone to become brittle, flaky, and eventually crumble to dust.
yeah.
Ooh,
So
dust
that
to
would make
dust, right?
sense.
Ashes to ashes, and
And
dust
he
to
would know
dust.
all about this kind of thing.
Huh?
He would know about this,
Yeah.
because he was into taxidermy in a sense. You know what I mean? Like he was either supplying uh, antlers and skulls for mounting
Well,
and
the
whatever. You
antlers
know
and
what I mean?
everything too.
So
Like he would use
yeah,
something to
yes, I'm
clean
saying,
them and whatever. He's not going to just cut
yeah,
them off and throw them on the wall, right? He'd have to mount them and
100%.
ugh.
He would have known about this as a kid. No mind as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not Butterfly Dana says hot tub chemicals. Oh yes, I remember. Wonder how much of those chemicals he would need. Well, all he'd have to do, because her body would take up most of the cooler, all he'd have to do is get probably maybe 3 jugs, 4 jugs to fill up the rest of the voids in the cooler around her
Mm,
body,
yeah.
because her body mass would take up much of the room in the cooler.
Well, depending. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
We
depending
don't
if he
know.
dismembered her and shit.
Yes, just that's what I was going to say. Like, I don't want to get gory or anything,
Yeah,
but we know what he was capable of doing from what his friends were saying,
yeah,
that he could skin and whatever an animal in
yeah.
minutes. So,
Oh, it's
but I know. But look, that's, you know what I mean. That's what we're dealing with.
well,
We're
we
dealing
know
with
her feet are missing.
yeah.
So
And you know,
why her
they
feet?
could have just
Why not a hand?
and her hands. I think her hands and feet.
No,
I
just her
think.
feet. Hang on. Let me go back to that. Hang on.
I thought it was hands and feet. You could be right, Willow. I thought it was hands and feet.
Let's see. Oh. According to statements from her attorneys, based on the autopsy report and the investigation, some of the bones in Suzanne Morphew's feet were missing from the shallow grave where her remains were discovered. Missing body parts. Lawyers for Barry Morphew stated that none of the bones in her feet were found, nor were her shoes. So, yeah, it's just her feet. Well,
Okay.
some bones were missing. Investigators did recover other items, including her cancer port clothing and a weathered bullet. An autopsy ruled her death a homicide with animal tranquilizer, BAM, found in her bones. Her remains are significantly bleached and found in a shallow, remote grave near Moffat. Forensic anthropologists concluded that the body had decomposed somewhere other than where she was found, noting a lack of animal predation or insect activity on the bones, suggesting they were moved there. Yeah. Yeah, so it was just her feet.
Mm. And do you know when they say the bones could have been moved a couple of times? I would agree with that too,
Mhm.
because there's no way Barry's going to be bringing those bones if he did say put them in the storage somewhere. He's not going to be bringing them back to Salida. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? Some
Yeah,
other
see?
place he knew.
They don't say nothing. Other items recovered. While feet were missing, investigators did recover her cancer port and items of clothing, biking clothing. They don't say nothing about a sweatshirt.
At the time, I'm sure there was a pink glove, a balaclava, and her
Was a pink
hoodie.
glove and
A pink glove.
clava also found with her remains.
Let me just see if I
Yes,
can pull the
according to the
picture up.
official autopsy report and forensic findings, both a pale patterned balaclava and a pink and light colored leather work glove were recovered at the site where Suzanne Morphew's at the site. These items are part of several pieces of evidence collected. Okay, balaclava described in reports as pale patterned, a glove, a pink and light colored leather work glove, a ripped dark blue gray crested bootay, hooded sweatshirt, a torn green Nike tank top, Yeti shorts, and a light colored, partially padded bra. Her purple medical cancel port labeled 6328 and a weathered bullet were also found. The discovery of these items, particularly the balaclava and work glove, has been highlighted because they do not typically align with the bike ride theory initially suggested at the time of her disappearance. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a. I think the shirt is the grey one. It's when she's. I have the picture here in front of me. It's Suzanne and Shirley are making breakfast,
Mhm.
bacon and eggs, and she's wearing this grey Colorado crested butte, Rocky Mountains uh, sweatshirt,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
that's
somebody in chat said it was
what.
gray too. I don't know where I got maroon from, but
She has a. She had a maroon one as well. But that was that's what I said. It was sure it was grey. So yeah, I'm looking at it here, and it's funny. On the side of the grill is there's a can of spray, coconut spray called Pam. It looks like
huh.
Pam.
Hmm. Tranquilizer cup, coffee cup, a half-finished cup of coffee found on the kitchen counter contained only Suzanne's
Yes,
DNA, supporting the theory that she was home the morning she disappeared.
and you had Iris saying that this was caffeine and her hydro drugs or whatever she was taking is a mixture of those. This is when we got the results. You know, the
Mhm.
results kind of broke first, and then this was Iris's cover story. You know what I mean? She had to go up with something, and you know, it was yeah. I don't believe Suzanne was biking on. Well, I don't think Suzanne was biking since Thursday. That's the last time Suzanne went biking. I did think she went possibly biking on the Friday, but no, she wasn't biking since Thursday.
This is interesting.
And
The presence of the metabolite forphenol indicated Suzanne was
yes,
alive for a period after the drugs entered her
yeah,
system as her body
but the
began to
metabol,
process. Oh, jeez. So she
yes.
knew. Like
So yeah,
that's like I can just picture like oh my god like she knew at that point like he's gonna kill me. The thing that she feared the most was happening.
I think she barricaded herself into her own bedroom,
That's where the door was kicked
and
in.
uh, and the door was kicked in, and I also think that she probably used furniture as well up against the door, trying to block it, and that's probably why the the um the the bedside locker is a different locker.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? I'd say he probably broke that, and that's why they found pieces of that in the fireplace,
Yeah.
because they live in the mountains, and he's got like sheds load
Firewood.
of
Yeah.
logs, firewood. Do you know what I mean? Why would you need to be burning
Why would you need to
furniture?
burn her
Do you know what I mean?
journal? They found the
Yeah.
spiral thing that was in her journal in the fireplace too.
Um. They Yeah, they found something like that, and they also found files. So she obviously he was burning stuff out of
Mhm.
files as well.
You know those metal things that the files hang on, those, like, it
Hook.
goes through the
Yeah, the
file
hooks.
folder?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
Yes,
right.
I
Yeah.
am. I'm gonna wrap it up. Okay, well, I gotta wrap things up.
No
I've
worries.
got to, give a ride to work to somebody, so yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what's gonna come of this, but I'm gonna keep my eye on we don't get much in the disclosure stuff in the on the site. Next to it, obviously, like, I went looking for that July 9th thing that they were referencing over here with the conflict persists as stated in July 9th motion. Well, I can't find that motion, so obviously, like, by now, I'm sure there's thousands and thousands and thousands of filings in this case, and we're just not getting them. Like the Brian Koberger,
Well, even
like,
the old
we
ones,
got, huh?
even the old, some of the old stuff, I find it very hard to get the older
Yeah,
stuff because I was looking for a document there, and it took me hours to find it,
I've got
and I had to keep putting in different names,
I've got
different ways of.
files upon files stored on my other computer of all, like, every time something come out from the first trial, every time something come out, I
Yeah,
downloaded it. So I got everything.
yeah, same here. So I thought I had everything, but there was one particular file. I ended up finding it in my own files in the end.
Yeah.
But sorry, no, I found it. I found it on the court documents, and then I found it on my own files afterwards. So yeah, typical. Um, thanks, Willow.
Well, thank you for coming on. Everybody was asking, where's Kurt? Where's Kurt's got a lot going on, so
Yeah,
he's he's got his own stuff going on right now.
yeah.
So um too much stuff on the brain all at once isn't good for anybody. So but yeah, Martin's usually around somewhere. There hasn't really been
I just
much to talk about in
It
this
just
week.
came up on my feed. It came up on my notifications. I was watching something completely different, and then when I came out of it, I seen the notification. I said, "I'll go in
Well, right at the beginning,
and
somebody
listen
says,
what's going
"Where's
on."
Martin?" I said, "I'll message him over on X and we'll see."
I didn't see the message on X somehow.
No?
I don't get notifications for that for some
Ah,
reason. I'm not on it long enough, Bobby. I don't bother going on there too much. I must start again. I must
I've
start
been on X
putting
more
stuff.
over the Nancy Guthrie stuff that we're covering. Actually,
Oh
I've got
yeah,
two reads coming out. I've got a read coming out on Gus Lamont because there is movement in his case, and I got an updated one on Nancy Guthrie and what's going on with the police. Not so much with her, but with the police and what's going on there. So I got those two coming out this week. Probably Gus tomorrow and then Nancy the next day. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm on X quite a bit. People are messaging me like crazy over there. So I find it's a lot easier to send the private messages over on X than it is on. You can't do it on YouTube, which YouTube should have.
no,
They
yeah.
should have like a private messaging system.
Now I'll just double check again because normally I get it and it comes to my email. But when I checked, when you said the link, you sent me the link. I went to my email, no sign. Then I went to X and I looked at my messages and no sign there either. So I
Let me
don't
see.
know.
Hang on.
But
X chat.
let me just check. Was it in chat?
No,
Was
no,
just in.
it's messages are not called chat. Yeah, I said
Okay,
hi, you on
all
live.
right. Let me have a
Yeah,
look.
they did this thing where you've got to put in a code now, or you lose all your messages. You can't access
Oh
any
right,
new
okay.
ones.
So
Yeah, they've
chat.
encrypted everything
All right.
somehow that you have to set it up with a bunch of different shit.
Oh, I see it. Right. It says to me now, create a password.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why.
And then
Okay.
you have to put in that pin or anything before you can even see your messages anymore. It's great. They're doing the same thing on
Okay.
Facebook, and it's like I'm not technically inclined, and it's like I'm gonna fuck something up, right? It's like, yeah, and I've got if
Yeah.
I don't write, like, the biggest lie that I've ever told is I'll remember that. And then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, put in your 4-digit password, like numbers, the four numbers. And it's like, okay,
And
what the fuck did I use? So it's like forgot
I know.
password, and then you gotta go. They gotta text message you. They're gonna send you a phone call. They're gonna send you an email.
I
You
know.
gotta jump through hoops to try and it's crazy. It's like,
I know. I
my
hate
God,
it. I hate it. I'm too old for all this stuff.
it's like, hey, she turned 60. Let's fuck with her. Oh God.
Deadly. Yeah, I know.
Okay, so we'll wrap it up.
Listen,
Thank you for
well,
coming on, Martin. You are amazing as
yeah,
always, and I appreciate you coming on, especially with no
no
notice.
worries.
But yeah, I'm going to keep an eye
No,
on
I'm
the
great.
docket and see, and anything else pops off, I'll jump back on. I'll shoot you a message. And
Okay.
hopefully, I'm over this cold. I've been sick all week, so hopefully, I'm over this cold
Yeah.
by the next time we got to do
All
something.
right. Get better soon. All
Thank
right.
you. Okay, you guys, take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.